So, we abide by Robert's Rules of Order in here, and as per one of the stipulations of this dead man's rules, we have to have an attendance list of all of the guests. So, Keegan will be passing around a piece of notebook. Please put your first and last name on. It's part of how we're operating. Thank you very much for your cooperation. We'll be beginning shortly.
Are all graduates? Are all freshmen? I'm going to count grads.
No, Nancy's not here. Nancy's also in physics. She Yep.
Also graduated.
Right, that's the worst thing. They picked like the person who was the best intentions.
Hello, everybody, again.
Hi, Marcus.
All right, so we are technically not in session right now, but I'm going to let someone speak before we begin.
Okay. Hi, guys. So I'm just going to read something quick. So recently, the petition removing Barmy from all student government positions has received the necessary 250 signatures to reach the floor of the Senate, as all of you are aware. After much thought and consideration, I've decided that it is in my best interest and the best interest of the student body to step down from all student government positions effective immediately. I'd like to apologize again to everyone who's affected by my inappropriate actions last April. I take full responsibility for what I did, and I hope for the continued success of the Rensselaer Student Union. Thank you.
Okay, so now this meeting is being called to order. Welcome to a meeting of the 46th Student Senate of the Rensselaer Student Union. My name is Marcus Flowers. I'm the current Grand Marshal, and we're going to begin with the way that we always do our meetings for the rest of the semester. So first is the approval of the minutes. Does anyone object to the reading of the meeting minutes from last meeting? Wait, is anyone object to waiving the reading of the meeting minutes from last meeting? All right. Does anyone have any errors to report with the meeting minutes from last meeting? All right, then the minutes go as approved. Next, we have our committee reports, whose order I do not have in front of me.
We don't have to. She's got them all.
Already.
Okay.
First report goes to Rules and Elections Committee.
Okay, so again, not much to talk about, but we're getting ready for GM week, being proactive. We're already trying to book our rooms for pool sitting and hopefully as smoothly as we expect.
GM Week this year will be, I believe, from April 8th to 16th, or 8th to 15th, sorry about that. We're looking into the idea of moving the final debates up from the Wednesday, where they're normally located, to the Tuesday, since some people requested us doing that, so there's more time to actually discuss and formalize things. And also because now, since we have the electronic voting system, we don't have to worry about it taking a day or two to potentially get results from primaries in the event we have primaries, blah, 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 normal poll countdown to being able to quit.
All right, any questions about the Rules and Elections Committee report? Next, Academic Affairs Committee, Spencer, and this is where we'll also be doing the presentations. SGC. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Jen Church with the Communications Committee.
I don't think really too much has changed. Just looking forward to the
Looking forward to the Senate survey results, which hopefully we'll be sending the survey out soon once it's finalized. Other than that, yeah, nothing really new to report.
Any questions about the committee report from Student Government Communications? All right, next, Academic Affairs Committee report, Spencer, and then a light presentation.
So for the undergraduate research project, a website overhaul, I'm going to have Steve talking about that, give you a brief presentation of our progress in the whole project. For other major projects, the scholarship and fellowship support project is going full steam ahead with the benchmarking compared to the current services offered by RPI. And right now we're looking at the results, aka how many fellowships our peer and aspirant schools are winning on the largely competitive fellowships. Think your NSF, your DOE, NIH grants compared to RPI. Once we have those hard numbers, we're going to get them ready and present them to administration. For the media project, where we reach out to local media, we're in the process of contacting Strategic Communications. And now Steve's going to talk about our undergraduate research project.
Hi. So for those of you who may or may not know who I am, my name is Steve Speraza. I'm with the Academic Affairs Committee, and today I will be presenting on the undergraduate research website overhaul project. Could you hit the next slide, please? So what problem are we exactly trying to solve here? There's been some reported issues with the current website for undergraduate research. We've been told it's lacking a lot of structure, it's difficult to navigate, there are some dead links, there are some sections of the website you can only access with specific prior knowledge and specific other links, and it's really at this moment in time not giving the students the best benefit. In addition, we've also heard that it's a little bit difficult for some students to find specific research that they truly have a passion for or interested in. So what we're trying to do is correct a lot of these issues and create a final product that's best for the students. Could you hit the next slide, please? So what exactly are we trying to do with this project? We are trying to make a one-stop shop, if we can, for undergraduates to get research. We're going to try and include a couple different features and ideas in the updated site. First of all, we're going to try and make a general outline for how exactly to get undergraduate research. It might include how to talk to professors, how to best write an email, things of that nature. We're also going to try and include a list for each department of active research faculty that may or may not be willing to take undergrads. This might include a short biography of the professor, any major papers they've done recently, what their specific research interests are. And then we're also going to try and do our best to showcase some really cool and outstanding undergraduate research projects that have been done in the past. We're probably going to include a couple of plugs or a page about the symposium, and we're also going to do our best to showcase individual projects. Next slide, please. So how are we going to go about completing this project? We've broken it down into 3 major steps, the first of which is to collect information on active research faculty from each individual school. Like I said earlier, this would be the part of the website that includes a short biography and research interests. The next step would be to create a template for the website itself. This might be like a template of how information is structured, and it would probably also include how the whole website itself is structured and how information is presented, things of that nature. And the last step would be to present the final product to the Office of Undergraduate Education. They said that they are willing to host the site and take care of the update on from a technical standpoint. Could you hit the next slide, please? So right now, we're almost at the end of that first step. We've compiled a good portion of the information. There's a couple holdouts. There's a couple of things we still need to clean up. But for the most part, we have put together a lot of the necessary list, and we've gathered a majority of the necessary information on teachers. A lot of the schools have been very helpful in gathering this information and putting together lists. The overhaul will hopefully go online next semester. We're at a point in the project where this is definitely possible. It's just a matter of everything coming together. So hopefully you'll see this rolled out pretty soon. And that's pretty much it. We should be done pretty quickly. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So first of all, great work, Steve and the AEC. One of the things, so I'm part of the Maine Student Advisory Council as well for the department. We're also trying to roll out a student research journal, which will have basically undergraduate research that's being done at RPI that typically doesn't get written up, doesn't get published. This will be a way to publish it, get more exposure. So I'd love to work with you in possibly trying to either make that bigger or do it in other schools, departments as well.
That sounds wonderful.
That sounds like something that would
Yeah, exactly. So anyone who would like to help out with this project, we have Academic Affairs Committee meetings every week, Monday, 7 o'clock in 3510 in Union, right across the hallway over there. Any other questions?
If I can make a comment.
Please.
As an academic who publishes, you do have to be careful with putting something down into a journal, as informal as it may be, because it might preclude it from getting accepted for publication in an established research journal. So you do have to be careful with that angle. Once something, even a thesis, gets
Right.
published, nowadays that might keep a journal from accepting a research paper. So
Right.
keep that in mind as you design your system.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be very careful. We'll talk to the Office of Undergraduate Research before anything official goes online. And a lot of the biographies and research interests have been approved and written up by the faculty themselves. All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, so the next committee to present is the Union Annual Report Committee, which is currently without a chair. So we will have,
I'm the vice chair.
yeah.
So we didn't meet this week, but we're just continuously going through the document. We're having people look through certain sections and cut down on wording and trying to streamline it. And then we're really just ramping up, waiting on the data so we can kind of compile the whole thing. And I guess the whole game plan's going to be up in the air now.
Any questions on the Union Annual Report?
When do we meet?
Mondays at 8.
Where?
SGS.
Any other questions? All right, next is Facility and Services Committee with Michael Hahn.
So our two subcommittees are kind of pivoting our priorities right now. So our project with the water bottle filling stations, we're going to look to make a We Are Gold proposal and try and get funding that way instead of asking the e-board for money. So instead of focusing on that, because we're working on Vasuda with that, we're looking at options to install like hand dryers in the bathrooms as another part of our like green initiative. And then our other project, which is looking to like take the reuse the tables that are going to be replaced in the McNeil room and put them into DCC, where they're also going to do a We Are Gold to secure additional funding. So we're going to hold off and work on a different project, which is hopefully looking at like a plan so that we can test the safety, like the blue lights that are around campus, hopefully like establishing a testing plan that we can execute at some point in the future. So those are our two like main priorities now. That's it.
Yes, Justin?
So when are you going to be bringing these We Are Gold proposals before Senate vote?
They were going to be, well, the We Are Gold for the water bottle filling station is being done by Vasuda.
Okay.
And the other one is being written by the BizOps committee, I believe, and eBoard. So we are just advising and helping out on that. We're not writing the proposals.
Any other questions on the Facility and Services Committee?
Let me just add, I'm on BizOps, so if you have any questions, you can talk to me.
All right, seeing no more discussion, we move on to Hospitality Services Advisory Committee, led by Joe Venusto.
Hey everyone. So last Wednesday we finished talking with Hospitality Services about meal plan recommendations for next year. What's going to happen now is Hospitality Services and Auxiliary Services finishes meal plans. They confirm meal plans amongst themselves, and what they're going to do is present to HSAC with what they come with. We don't expect them to throw something at us that we haven't recommended to them before. We've been having a good discussion with them about it. We expect them to present exactly what we've already talked about, at which point I'll be able to bring it before you guys to explain kind of what's going on. We're meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. in the club library in the SGS to kind of discuss where we're going to try to take HSAC for the rest of the school year. Any questions? Cool.
All right, next we have the Student Life Committee with Paul Laurie.
So SLC meets Mondays at 7 in the SGS. And right now we're just continuing our work on our two main project groups, which are trying to work with the school to get program-specific laptops, with potentially looking at getting tailored hardware or software and packages or laptops that are easier for students to access based on what they need, depending on what their major is. And also working with the school to communicate some issues that students have with the school's open weather policy. I'm currently in the process of scheduling meetings with the registrar to talk about our preferred names project, and with Alex De Silva to discuss the potential of the mall shuttle being moved from the union to the school so that we have to go before the e-board every semester to fund it. And we're working on finding an idea for a third project group, since we kind of have a lot of people working on two things. So if you have ideas, questions, or comments, we met Monday at 7 before the other guys did. We're cool.
Any questions on the Student Life Committee? All right, next Web Technologies Group with Justin Etsy.
All right, hi everyone. The Web Technologies Group meets on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. right here. Alternatively, it meets in the SGS, depending on the availability of this room. This week, we started looking into at the SLC meeting, we started working with SLC on the possibility of having program-specific laptops, so that was great. On the project side, the election side's coming along nicely. We should have a proof of concept done right after Thanksgiving, tentative on that. Petition site is completely back up to speed after a couple glitches in the past week. Everything's looking pretty smooth now. If you have any problems with it, please contact me at webtech@union.rpi.edu. And I believe that's it. Oh, also, renewed the contract with RPI TV for meeting recordings, so that's convenient.
Any questions on Web Technologies Group? Yes, Paul?
Exactly how does this contract work? Since
It's me asking them to record as it's been done by WebTech for the past 6 years.
Any other questions? All right, seeing no more questions on the committee reports, we move on to our constituent reports. First constituent report comes from the executive board. Would you like to speak on that, Nick?
Yeah, I'll do it. All right, so this week the executive board had a pretty busy meeting. We recognized RPI ASA as a union-recognized club. Club Baseball, which became a union-funded club last week, came before us to firm up some details before they come and work on a Gesundheit, more concrete budget. ACHA Hockey came before us to ask for funding for uniforms. We advised them to look to other sources of funding before coming back with a final number. Colleges Against Cancer came before us also looking for additional subsidy. Unfortunately, due to union guidelines for the spending of money, we were unable to fund their purposes based on the grounds that the union does not fund organizations specifically for the raising of charitable funds. I can provide union budgeting guidelines for anybody interested. I don't have them memorized off the top of my head. I apologize. Other than that, the Senate did come before us, and we approved 3 weekends of shuttle service to the mall, one of which is the weekend of the Star Wars movie premiere, so I'm looking forward to that. And BizOps came before us talking about their We Are Gold proposal, looking for additional funding for the McNeil Room renovations. Other than that, we are still looking for individuals to take leadership for the Summer Arch program from the executive board side, looking at how it's going to affect the union operations and all of our constituents, as well as working with individuals identified by Marcus for taking trips to other universities that have similar Arch-like programs. This upcoming week is our e-board potluck week, in which members bring food so that we can have a good time. You're welcome to attend. If you show up, please bring some food. There's no popcorn at this meeting. I'm severely disappointed. And other than that, that's about it for the e-board. Any questions?
The weekends for the shuttle are, the dates for the shuttle are Saturday, November 14th, Saturday, December 12th, and Friday, December 18th, right?
I think so.
So that's what I thought. I'm just like, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
which I
we
saw.
struck the weekend that was Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
It was the, I think, what,
20-something.
2 weeks after that?
28, yeah, 28.
Yeah.
It's like 8 p.m. Any other questions on the executive board's report? Awesome. Next constituent is.
Hey everybody. This week we met with the official council, pretty sure. Colleen was there, so we discussed stipend issues and possibly getting impact for our symposium, which seems to be possible now, so we'll continue with that. We met with the senior class today. Also, they told us that even though they had money originally, they spent it, so now we can't have it. In a nutshell, which is great. I'm glad they came out and told us personally instead of making us come money in weeks after asking. Communication with the senior class has been very professional, and I want to thank them wholeheartedly. Camera, and everyone here. If everyone can follow senior class's example, really, and just not talk to anyone, we'd be great. Thank you, senior class. That's all I got.
Any questions on the graduate council report? Awesome. Next, we have interfraternity council with James Whalen.
So the IFCD board positions are being elected in 15 days. Nominations can be sent to the IFC president or the vice president, ifc.pres.rpi. Also, November 6th, we've got Scrabble in the Union, and that is hosted by EPO. That's it.
Any questions on the report?
I can elaborate on the Scrabble thing because I'm in APO a little bit and we would like to promote it more. So we're hosting a Scrabble tournament on Friday. I think admission is $5 to participate, and the money is going to benefit charity, and it's for our National Service Week, which is as a national thing, we all do service to promote a certain cause for that week, and National Service Week this year, it's promoting literacy for adults. So you should try and get your friends to go. It should be fun.
I believe the winner gets to donate like $80 or something to a different charity or something.
Yep. Yeah, I also think there are prizes for the winners.
Any questions? Awesome. Okay. For the record, what we're handing out is the agenda, so if you would like a copy, please let it be known. All right. Next, we have Pam Hunter.
So we were going over our budget, and it turns out we have $2,000 left to spend before December. So we are thinking of different things. We're considering having a new member bonding event, and we need other events. So if you guys have ideas for how Panhandle can spend their money, we need that to go, or else it's just going to disappear and end up in savings. November 10th, we have Feud for a Cause, $5 per person on a team if you want to play, or $1 per viewer. And then November 11th is Alpha Phi's cardiac arrest. And I think it's either been up or it's coming up by the end of this week, voting on Facebook for how high bail should be set for each person. We don't have a list yet for elections, but that's going to come out probably in the next 2 weeks. That's it.
Any questions?
What's the bail part? What was that?
Oh, okay. Here, let me give you more details on the events.
Explain Alcatraz since I was.
Do you want to do it? Yeah.
Okay, so Alcatraz is essentially a bunch of people from different groups on campus get arrested and have mugshots taken, and they're put up on Facebook. Every like that is on it is $1 added to your bail. So during that day, everybody's somewhere in the union, and essentially you're supposed to try to get some of your friends or people you know to like drop by and like donate $1 or $2 or 50 cents or something towards your bail. People can also like say they have X amount of money, which they'll donate to the winner of a certain competition, like the first person to eat a cookie off of their forehead without using their hands, or have a turtle race around the union. I did these last year and lost. So yeah.
I'll give a run through of what the Feud for a Cause is, because Vic's not here, but she was going to elaborate. It's basically the Greek version of Family Feud, if anybody's familiar with that. Basically, you sign up a team of 5 generally, or 6 if you'd like, and we just have a PowerPoint up, Family Feud style, and we just answer questions, we have fun, it's a blast. We did it last year for the first time, and it was great. You guys should definitely come. If you don't want to participate, you can watch. I believe it's free for watching and $5 to participate. So come.
Food drink served?
Any questions, Mike?
Question on the bail thing. So you donate money in person or like it on Facebook, is that what you're saying?
The likes set the bail, and then you're supposed to get dollars to meet that.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, so that, well, technically, is there anyone who is able to speak on the student union activity fee subcommittee?
Well, I know what Andrew reported to me last, which was he's still. Yes. Chaz finished his report. He'll be reporting to the e-board this week. As far as the other 2 subcommittees go, they are still gathering data and are not ready to report at this time.
Okay. All right. So next we go to special orders, which is where we deal with anything new on it other than our regular agenda. So I would like to identify representative of the Faculty Senate. Dr. Hirsa is here with us today, and he's just going to speak for a minute, explaining who the Faculty Senate is.
Okay, good evening, folks. My name is Professor Hirsa. I'm in Mechanical Aerospace Nuclear Engineering Department, and I'm part of the Faculty Senate. Specifically, I'm part of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. There's 6 of us, and this is basically elected by the Faculty Senate. And the Faculty Senate basically represents, is part of our shared governance, because that's who's supposed to, that should be the stewards of a university, the faculty, drive the intellectual vigor and the values of the institution. So that's what Faculty Senate does. At the moment, there are several issues that we're dealing with. Perhaps the most critical one is Summer Arch, trying to define it properly and making sure that it's going to be beneficial for the students. And so personally, that's what I find most intriguing. So I'd like to make sure that this is a dialogue between Faculty Senate and the Student Senate, because we all have a stake, we all have a skin in this game, right? It's your degrees, so it's an institution that alma mater that you belong to, and it's also our home. This is my 26th year here, and I'm going to be here for a while longer. I have a 4-year-old and 6-year-old who both say they want to come to RPI at least at this stage. So I definitely want to make sure that the institution is a healthy, strong, vigorous, dynamic outstanding place for them to go. So that's my personal drive. But I'd like to hear your thoughts as to what we as the faculty can represent on your behalf and vice versa, because student voice is powerful. You guys are the product. Without you, there wouldn't be RPI, right? We would have no business coming here because our research portfolio is separate. That without students, we wouldn't have a research portfolio either. Without students in my own group, some of whom are here, I can point to one sitting in the corner who helped out at a most crucial time when the proposal had to go out yesterday, and I put an all hands on deck call to everybody in the group. He came forward and allowed the proposal to be finished in time to make the submission. So students are essential for the research, and research, I guess, is essential for the vitality of the institution and where it's going. So that's just one angle. Any issues that you want us to hear about, your concerns, your perspectives, I would love to hear here or elsewhere, and I can certainly try to answer questions if
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Yersa?
Yes. What are currently some of the things that the Faculty Senate are working on?
Like you said, well, I just came from a Faculty Senate meeting where we discussed the faculty handbook. So this is the handbook that defines our role, our powers, where we stand in the institution. And Faculty Senate was dissolved almost 9 years ago. I don't remember exactly when it was. And then it was reconstituted. Our current faculty, we don't have a faculty handbook, and what we have is the handbook that was part of the old Faculty Senate, so 2006 handbook, and now we're just in the process of completing revisions to that handbook, and that defines our role, our stewardship of the institute, and our powers and our vision for what's in the best interest of. So that's one item we worked on. The other item is, of course, Summer Arch, major issue in terms of how it should, what it should really mean, how it should be implemented, how to make it work for students and help them and help the institute, of course. And there are various initiatives. There's one professor on the Faculty Senate Executive Committee who's pushing at the moment for solarizing RPI and bringing in contractors where we would use our property as base for the solar collectors. So there are all sorts of initiatives, but I think the most important one to me, and I think to the president of the Faculty Senate, Professor Maniotti, Antoinette Maniotti, who's also in my department, Mechanical Aerospace and Nuclear Engineering Department. I think Summer Arch is the #1 item on our agenda.
Thank you. Hey, how you doing? You can clap if you want, I guess.
You should wait until he speaks and then clap.
So I'm Mike Kayla. I'm with some of the graduate students here. And the last 4 years, the graduate student stipend minimum has not increased. The cost of living increases have gone up. And we collected data recently that shows that we've fallen way behind all our peer national schools and their stipends compared to their cost of living. It's like way behind. I want to know if you guys are willing to open to invitation essentially from us at your faculty meeting.
So the question is, you are
going to present to you guys essentially about the data we collected on stipends.
Well, I don't believe Faculty Senate in any way controls the stipend, with the exception, the only stipend amount we set as principal investigators on our research grants, and the vast majority of people are research active on campus. I'm certainly in a school of engineering. vast majority of school engineering professors are research active, and the only amount we decide upon as principal investigators on a grant is how much we pay summer, the level of summer stipend, and the graduate students on the Senate are aware of this. So that's the only amount. The base, the 9-month stipend is set by the university, and there are, of course, these are legitimate issues to bring up, and it makes perfect sense because tuition goes up, which means that amount, we pay 65% of the tuition out of our research grants, and so that amount has, of course, steadily gone up at a pace far exceeding inflation. So we're well aware of costs going up, and we're saddled with that. Paying a student more and making effectively our lab employees happy would be a pretty easy step. So, and I hope Paul and others who are in my group, and he's not a graduate student, but there are graduate students. None of them are in the faculty senate at the moment, but I hope they're happy with how much I compensate them. But that's a very good point, and I will note that and bring it up at the next faculty senate extended committee.
Any more support we can get in the issue, actually, just would be great.
Say again?
For us. Any more support we can get in the issue would just be great for us.
I think what we need to do is talk a lot more, because you don't realize how much your priorities and our priorities, not mine, but our priorities are one and the same. So the more we talk, the more I think we realize that we're on the same boat.
So in order to kind of facilitate better communication, is there any way that students can get more involved in the Faculty Senate, and are some of the Faculty Senate meetings open to students?
We have a Faculty Senate member in Mr. Flowers. Is there a second person that can fill for you when you can't go?
So when it comes to positions on the Faculty Senate, generally I leave that to be just discussion between me and the Academic Affairs Committee Chair, Spencer. Primary committee that I was always used to working with was the Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee, which sets the curriculum and determines what courses are and aren't available at RPI. And on that, there are 2 undergraduate spots and 1 graduate spot. As far as other positions on the Faculty Senate, I am not personally familiar with all those positions, because as the Faculty Senate has only recently been reestablished at RPI, people are still figuring out, where did students sit in the past? Because, as students, since it was disbanded a while, well before our time, we don't have any inherited records of where we did and did not sit and where we were active in the Faculty Senate. So that's just a learning process that we're in the middle of.
I don't believe that the Faculty Senate would not welcome visitors either. I think student visitors will be welcome. An email to Professor Magnotti might be a good way of, because I think she was very, very supportive of me sitting, because I volunteer. I feel, again, I have a lot of skin in this game. Between a 4-year-old and 6-year-old, if RPI is not around when they're going to college, then it's going to be a major problem for me.
Keegan. When does Faculty Senate meet?
Okay, so our schedule is online. There's a Faculty Senate website, and my calendar is not necessarily up to date, but I believe there's an executive committee meeting tomorrow, but that's just executive committee. That's just the 6 people from the Faculty Senate who meet, in fact, tomorrow with the provost, and we meet with him regularly. So we have the ear of one of the highest administrators at RPI, but it's not the president, but certainly the highest administrator. I can tell you personally that Professor Prabhat Hajila is an amazingly not only bright individual, but a decent human being, and was a good listener. So having that connection, I think, is very important for Faculty Senate, is having a true ally in Professor Hajila. But yes, I don't know the calendar, but it's online.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I see no more. Thank you very much, Dr. Hirschman. All right. So next on our list of items is the petition titled "Removal and Barring of Andrew Sedano from All Student Government Positions." So, as this petition has reached over 250 signatures from the student body, we must listen to a presentation on it should the person who sponsored the petition be willing to do so, and I believe that is the case. So we will listen to a presentation on their petition, and then we will address it afterwards. So,
Are you planning on projecting and addressing?
No, I'm just gonna be.
everyone, please give him your full attention.
I'd like to start off by acknowledging a minor error in the petition. I initially stated that the J Board found Andrew Sedano guilty of breaking election rules. In actuality, this was the Rules and Elections Committee via Sanctions 8 and 9 of GM Week 2015. One purpose of this petition was to remove Sedano from office, which is no longer needed due to his recent resignation. However, the other half, to bar Andrew Sedano from holding any position of the student government, remains. So I'm going to read off the petition to everyone present, just so to refresh what happened. Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute's student government have appointed Andrew Sedano to the position of Senate E-Board Liaison. This position, as well as any position in the student government, is a position of power on campus. As with any student government title, the person in this position must always act with the utmost transparency and accountability in order to maintain the student body's trust. Last semester, Andrew Sedano was found guilty by the Rules and Elections Committee of breaking the student government's election rules, as addressed in Sanctions 8 of GM Week 2015. He was also found guilty of continuing to campaign after being ordered by the student government to cease all active campaigning, as addressed in Sanction 9. Not only did he disregard the decisions of the student government, he also lied to the student body in regards to his actions at the GM Week debate. To add insult to injury, after being caught in the act of breaking the laws of the union, Andrew Sedano did not summon forth the common decency to apologize for his actions against his opponent in the race for president of the union. I, nor any member of RPI's community, can honestly say we hold trust in this man. He has shown time and again that he is unable to act with the transparency and accountability required of any position in student government. We ask that the student government swiftly removes Andrew Sedano from any and all positions he may hold and bar him from holding any office with the student government for the remainder of his time at RPI. Pulling from previous J Board decisions, I would recommend barring Andrew Sedano from holding any elected or appointed office within Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute's student government for the 2015 to 2016 and 2016 to 2017 school years. Does anyone have any questions for me?
What's your name?
I'm Trevor Molyneux.
Thank you.
Before we open up discussion, I'd like to remind our guests of the procedure for Senate debates and other rules related to this discussion in particular. If you wish to enter the queue, simply raise your hand, and I will try and figure out what your name is and write you down. This is going to be interesting. You shall have 5 minutes to speak once I call on you, but you may choose at any point to yield the remainder of your time to another person in the room or conclude early. The presenter will be allowed 5 minutes to respond to any person's comment that they may choose to. The queue is going to be a first-in, first-out structure. That is, anyone who enters the queue shall be called first, then the next person who entered shall be called until no names remain. A person who has spoken may re-enter the queue using the same procedure, but they will not be called again until everyone in the queue has had the opportunity to speak at least once. When it is your turn to speak, please speak clearly and concisely. Be sure that other senators, the secretary, and guests in the room can hear you and understand what you are saying. Be sure to address the presiding officer or motion on the table. Do not address any members of the Senate or others in the room unless you wish to yield your time to them. No personal comments or attacks will be allowed. Remember to discuss the presentation and or the motion at hand. You must discuss details about what happened, policies and procedures, and the position that someone serves in, but not the person himself. Non-senators may not make motions, but may request that a senator do so. And this last part is not necessary as he's been removed at this time. All right, so I'm going to open up the queue at this time. Paul's going to be in there first.
Okay, so I have 2 questions, which is, one, are you aware that the Rules and Elections Committee explicitly stated in our handbook that we don't rule based on any precedents set by former committees because they were under different handbooks at different times? And 2, do you know what the final vote difference or percentage difference between the votes of
Andrew and the closest candidate to him, Greg, were.
To answer your first question, I was unaware of that. I simply brought up the previous rulings as an example. I find that the fact that they don't take into account previous rulings doesn't affect the stance of the petition. Your second question was his position in the polls of GM Week. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, the second place candidate was Greg Bertel at somewhere around 33%.
Greg was first, actually. Second, no, in the first, Greg was, we're talking about the one that Sedona was in. Greg was first, not second.
We're gonna move on to next in the queue. James?
Yeah, why don't you think that he could have a second chance?
Were it just the isolated incident of ignoring the election rules and violating them, he very well could deserve a second chance. However, in the days following the ruling, he immediately broke the ruling laid down upon him, and that right there is a second chance.
Jennifer?
Okay, so I know last year there were some decisions that he made that maybe weren't the best, but since that point, since those decisions have been made and since he has been appointed as Senate E-Board liaison, he has done his best to represent constituents. For example, the grad students were saying the activity fee was too high because of their stipend problem. He started a task force committee to address that problem. He is working he was working his hardest to make sure that people were represented. And now the UAR committee and this task force doesn't have a chair, but it's especially bad for the UAR because this is their busiest time, or it will pick up very soon. And the committee was kind of just thrown into a little bit of turmoil. Even if Tommy takes over, which is probably what's gonna happen, they'll still be, short people, hardworking, dedicated members. And by his actions, he already withdrew from the PU race, which he probably would have gotten. So that was punishment enough, and him resigning from his position was also punishment enough. So are we gonna continue to punish him for several bad choices that he made at the end of his sophomore year? I had another point, but I forgot it. I apologize.
I understand that it is a significant inconvenience to have the head of any committee removed, especially at the busiest point of the year. However, I feel like that is irrelevant to the fact that the student body, at least me and 258 other members of RPI's community, find that Sedano lacks the ability to act with transparency required to represent the student body. This is not about his ability to do so. I understand that he's been a part of the student government for his time here. I understand that he has the experience and that he, was able to get stuff done. But unfortunately, that's irrelevant to the fact that RPI students cannot trust him.
Tommy?
Okay. I have a couple points. First, I want to say if there was any vote today, I will not vote because I'm one of Andrew's closest friends. But some of the things you said aren't very fair to Andrew. First of all, removing him from this position, even though he stepped down, would be completely unnecessary because all of us were elected up here, and all of us chose him to have that position. So that means you don't have faith in any of us. And if that's true, then so be it. But to not have faith in any of your student government, that even after all that happened, he was the best candidate for that position, that makes me pretty sad to see you don't believe in us. And then secondly, I don't understand why you want to bar him, because he getting selected again would be either E-Board, like seeing his potential and everything he has and what he can offer and choosing him as a candidate. And again, you chose Nick and the rest of us who also approve him So it'd be kind of another lack of faith in your student government, which is basically what this is saying, in, again, barring him. And on a second note, if he runs for PU again, or senator, or anything, he's getting elected by the people. 250 people signed this petition, yes. But when an election happens, more than 250 people vote. More than 250 people will have a chance to say what they think of him. Let the people decide. It's not on us to say, he made mistakes. Let the people decide what the verdict on him is. I think Andrew is a very effective leader. I think he is a great leader. He is extremely hardworking. I will admit Andrew does not take criticism well. That is something he takes the stress directly on him, and I was actually happy he didn't get elected PU for his own personal well-being. And I think that's also what led to those actions, because Andrew was under tremendous pressure from himself, because he demands the utmost from himself. And I think that was one act of this. It was a mistake, and I agree. Again, after that, like, I don't condone anything he did. I was very disappointed in him in his actions. But I think barring him is not putting a trust in Rensselaer to make the right decision. It's not putting a trust in your elected officials to make the right decision. And if you don't believe we did, then so be it. But he was the best candidate. There was no one better. There was a reason why during all of the like the Graduate Council does an endorsement, the Polytech does an endorsement, I think the IFC, Panhandle does an endorsement. He had every single recommendation because he was the best candidate. And then he did make he had mistakes, and rightfully so, he suffered the fate he caused himself. But to say that he has nothing else to offer student government will be a huge disservice to this community. And I hope you factor all of that in. Yeah, I was speaking to the Senate. I don't want to respond.
So he has an option to respond if he wants to. You do not have to respond to every comment if you don't feel it's necessary.
I will respond. I maintain that this is not a issue of me trusting the Senate. I do trust the Senate's decision-making capabilities, and I do believe you when you say that he was the best candidate. He was the one most able to fulfill the role selected for him. However, the student body doesn't trust him in that role is the issue. It has nothing to do with his capabilities.
Yeah, Claire.
Hi there. I just have a statement to make. I'm here tonight to speak briefly about a very important issue to me, my friend Greg, and the entire student body. It's my wish to express the disappointment I feel when I think about the fact that someone who broke the honor code is still able to run for a student government position. A student government member represents the best of the best. You all wear shirts with the RPI Union insignia, a proud symbol of your position and the responsibility it brings. You bear on your shoulders the weight of not just your own problems, but those of the student body, clubs, and activity groups both on and off campus. That being said, I cannot fathom how a body of my peers can sit before me without questioning how someone who broke the guidelines set down by the Rules and Elections Committee could ever once again sit among them. Not only did Andrew Sedano show disrespect and total disregard for his running mates, but he did so without facing any long-term consequences when it comes to future appointment to serve his student body. I stand before you tonight, along with many others, asking you to consider barring Andrew Sedano from further being a member of student government, and hope that you take into consideration the precedent that this will set for future bodies to come. Thank you all for your time and your service.
Joshua? I pass. Austin?
Okay. So kind of what I want to say about this is just, I'm trying to say this as calmly as possible. While I do think Andrew is very qualified for the position he was given, as a new senator at the time, it really gave me some questions about Senate integrity with the fact that we would put someone in office after they had just done these things. And although I don't think it's really fair to ban him from office because a lot of these offices are student elected completely, I think that it wasn't a move in the right direction for the student body trusting the Senate to elect him. And as our liaison, I don't think that was really the best move on our part. I'm done Thursday.
Nick?
I just wanted to communicate to those in the room a few points of facts that were communicated to me by Andrew before tonight. He desires a clean break, and he will not be looking to fill any of these roles after this, regardless of the results of tonight. And as such, I do have plans, in case anybody was worried about our union, I have plans like A through A57 or whatever, to make sure that we're gonna run fine. That being said, Tommy, I just wanted to ask a quick question. Did you say that he was appointed by me?
No, I said you appointed him to the E-board.
No, I didn't. That was appointed by Marcus and approved by the Senate.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
That's fine. I just wanted to clear that up because it's been a common confusion. And just so people in the room and Senate are aware of the positions he currently holds, they are the Senate Executive Board Liaison, which by bylaw standings is the UAR chair, and he is the chair of the Activity Fee Task Force. Other than that, he does not hold any appointed or elected position that I am aware of. That's all.
Dan?
Okay, so I had written something, but it appears that most of what I wrote is no longer necessary. I would just like to say that what some might interpret as an attack on him or an attack on the Senate was instead a democratic action and a referendum on Sudano's placement on the Senate. It did not have anything to do with our trust in you as leaders. It had everything to do with our trust in Sudano.
Daniel?
I apologize. What was your name?
Dan.
Thank you.
Just a couple comments and a question. First of all, I've heard a lot of people mention that this was just one mistake in Sudano's career and that we shouldn't punish him or bar him from office for one mistake. But if you look at what this nation's built upon, it's built upon people who do heinous crimes are convicted, such as murder, rape, and then even treason, such as Richard Nixon in the Watergate scandal. These people do not live down these crimes and atrocities against this nation. And I think that if we allow Sudano to continue to run for a position, I feel it would reflect not only poorly on the student senate, but also on the student body that we allow someone who continued to, who did a very improper action in running and not keeping a budget. I feel that it also sets a poor precedent. I wanted to ask you what you feel would be the reaction if he was not barred.
Are you yielding to a specific person? Back to the presenter?
Back to the presenter.
What I feel the student populace's reaction would be, or honestly, I am unsure. Like I said, we got 250 people to sign this petition because they agree that he shouldn't be in office. I don't imagine this leading to a student protest or anything like that. I mean, because at the end of the day, the student body did vote on all of you guys. They do trust you guys to make the right decision. This is just us bringing this to your attention, saying that they're asking you to re-examine the facts and make another decision on this. As a parliamentary inquiry. Sure. Do we have a motion on the table, or are we just discussing right now?
There is no motion on the
table.
Timothy?
I think my point is largely irrelevant now.
Mason?
I yield to Nadia.
Okay, thank you. So everyone keeps on discussing the 250 people who petitioned. I was one of the original 250 people, and I have no relationship to Greg or Andrew. But I did vote on this. I signed the petition. And I was here for Postergate 1, and I was here for Postergate 2. And when I talked to my friends who are also seniors about to graduate in May, they just assumed Andrew was disqualified from the whole government position and wasn't involved. So people act like 250 isn't that much of the student body, but I assure you there's been plenty more students who just don't keep up with current events. And if they did know, they would be more vocal about it. And especially since when we've already had an issue with tampering with posters, when it happens again, why would we just be like, okay, it happened, it's not a big deal. I'm not saying that this is something that someone should be criminalized for the rest of their life. However, they've already demonstrated to the RPI community that they cannot follow rules. And if they can't follow rules when they don't have a position, then how can I trust them when they're holding any kind of position regarding the Senate or any student government position? And I'm graduating in May, but how can I ensure that he's not going to do anything in the next 2 years? And I just wish that we can just reflect that, you know what, sometimes things happen and consequences happen. And this is nothing personal against Andrew, as I said. You've broken rules, and there's already been a precedent for it. So why keep it going, okay? I'm saying this year, I don't want a poster date for it. So let's end it.
Justin. So I have taken quite a few classes with Andrew since being a student here. I've seen that he's a very smart person. He's a hard worker. He has a lot of redeeming qualities. But if we think about what the UAR is, the Union Annual Report is our financial document, right? It comes out once a year, and if nothing else, it may be what a student is the only thing that a student may get to read about where their money is going every year. In the past few years, and this is not against anyone who was on the UAR committee or chaired the UAR committee or being even involved, but in the past few years, we've had an issue with making sure that the document was accurate, up to date, making sure it was clear to students what was going on. There were a lot of other issues that people have brought up about that. And last year in particular, it didn't end up too well. It ended landed up with us failing the student activity fee, which is pretty severe. There was a reason for it, but it was still pretty severe. So the UAR committee is quite important, even though we don't see it on a daily basis. And it's very important that the general student body has faith in it for what the information that is on it, that it is accurate, it is well-formed, and it is not misleading in any way. Whether or not Andrew would have done a great job at UAR, I don't know. But one thing's for sure is that a lot of students don't think that he would have been that his result would have been trusted. Again, I can still say I'm friends with Andrew. I'm still going to be taking classes with him. I know him well. You know, I see him every now and then. He's still a good person, but that doesn't mean he's very hardworking. He has a lot of good qualities, but the bottom line is he's not trusted at this point. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I think that this was brought up and why this was addressed. And you know, it's an issue that hits all of us because we're supposed to be, you know, representing what our constituents tell us. And I can tell you that, you know, as one of the administrators of the petition site, I go on there every day and I can see that there are a significant number of students, and I'm assuming from all the different classes, and you know, your constituents have spoken, and this is their concern, and this is what they have to say. So just keep that in mind with what's coming up.
Nancy.
I was just wondering if you could go into more detail about the actions that he did last year. I obviously wasn't here, so I don't exactly know what rules he broke or what he did. So if you can just go into more detail.
So last year during the build up to the GM Week elections, Andrew and Greg Bertel were the two on ballot candidates, both with posters up around campus. Andrew Sedano was caught on camera directing one of his affiliates to remove tape from a tape mural that was a ad for Greg's campaign. When this tape came to light, the R&E committee decided that he and I believe his affiliated party were no longer allowed to active campaign. The following day, this led up to Election Day, where the party was caught continuing to campaign, and the R&E committee made the second sanction against him. I can pull it up to refresh. But there was also evidence of other posters being tampered with. So that was the initial part, the second year in a row of poster tamperings during election season. And the follow-up with him stating that he, stating with him commenting during the debate him not speaking the truth to the students during the debate of GM Week.
Greg.
So I know I wouldn't be able to get out of here without saying anything. I ran against Andrew Sedano for president of the union, as I'm sure all of you are aware. And to this point, I'd say I've been relatively silent. I made a couple of posts on Reddit about it, but nothing in person. I didn't say much at his appointment, even though I was there, and that's my biggest regret of the whole campaign trail season. Number two is bringing the RNE to the J board, but that's a different subject entirely. I wrote a big long speech to give out, but at this point it doesn't seem appropriate. I'm just gonna go straight to the conclusion with it. And that's that the fact that Andrew Sedano was still allowed to participate in student government after everything that he did it's a farce. It was a mistake of the highest order. Today, I want to make sure that this motion passes in order to give the Senate the opportunity to right a wrong. To appoint Sedano and confirm his appointment was to condone his actions and announce to the entire student body that his actions were permittable under the student union. To vote against his barring is to condone those actions again. To abstain from the vote, as I know some of you plan to do, is to refuse to accept that actions have consequences. I believe that at this point, the only thing that is reasonable is to say that he's barred from any future positions because he's escaped any sort of punishment thus far. I yield the rest of my time.
Greg, who are you yielding to?
Whoever's next.
Mike?
Me?
Yes, you.
Cool. So I'm under the impression there's no motion on the floor. Cool. I'm under that impression. I think everyone said what they want to say. I think that, in my opinion, a punishment's been dealt already. If it wasn't dealt earlier like it should have been, I apologize for that. It wasn't my fault either, but I still apologize for that. But he's not in office anymore. And if he gets elected again next year, it's either student leaders' fault that who've been elected or the student population. So I think I trust both the student leaders and the population to decide what happens to him next year and the years after that. So I motion that we close debate now and we move on to other things. Second.
No, this is a motion. It's 2/3 vote. I'm present. You know what you said that else we don't people can be So just to be clear, if you vote yes, it requires a 2/3 vote of those present and voting. Doing so will restrict anyone else from being added to the queue. We will finish with the 6 people remaining on the queue, and then we'll be done with discussion. Motion could theoretically still be made by those 6 people or who they yield to.
All those in favor of ending additions to the queue and ending discussion thereafter, please raise your hand high so that I can see them. Caleb, is that up or down? No. All those opposed? Motion passes 16-6-3. We will no longer be adding people to the queue for discussion of this topic.
Keegan.
Pass.
Michael.
So I think so from what you said, I don't remember like everything, but there was a punishment that came down because of the initial incident. There was an additional punishment that came down after the second incident, which was him being disqualified from the race. So I think this petition is saying that that those punishments weren't enough. Is that the general consensus? So I think, in my opinion, it is enough. Like, the punishments that he was given was enough. Like, he's not gonna run again. He's not gonna try and get elected to a position again. I know he's just saying that, so like there's no way for me to know that for sure because I'm not gonna be here. But I don't know. I feel like that's enough for me.
Paul? Okay, so first of all, just for some perspective on everything I'm about to say, I'm the person you should blame if you think there are any problems with the sanctions given out during GM Week last year, since whether or not that's fair, I was the chairman of the Rules and Elections Committee, so that's on me. Second of all, before we start, can we just stop calling it Postergate? I don't want to think about this weekend, this term Postergate anymore. It was just a horrible 2 weeks in general. So, for example, just to begin with my points, to start with Daniel, there were no problems with Andrew's budget. There was nothing we found that was an issue with his budget. The punishments he were given were because of what was mentioned earlier with Sedano and some of the other members of his party were in a video, seen taking down parts of a tape murally thing made by Greg, which was the reason. And essentially when Artie went to the room to decide this, we found out about it and just started discussing it on the Wednesday before voting, about 2 hours at most before the GM and PU debates were supposed to start. And essentially the conclusion we came to was, this is messed up, it shouldn't have happened. Some people in the room wanted to boot him and everybody in the video out of the race directly. But the conclusion we came to at the end was, us kicking somebody out would, in effect, decide the race right then and there. This video and what happened and what he did came out before people could vote. People had the chance to hear about it, make an educated decision. It was publicized, it was talked about during the debate. We only ended up coming to a final decision about it about 30 minutes at most before the debate started, which was to leave him in the race, but essentially forcibly disband his party and bar active campaigning for him. The second issue was there was apparently only one member of his party who didn't read up on the sanctions and didn't know what they weren't allowed to do. And this guy decided to put on Andrew Sedano buttons and wear them around while screaming at people to come get cookie or cake or pizza or whatever from their campaign table, which is an act of active campaigning. And that's because somebody in their party was actively campaigning that went against the sanction we gave them. So he was removed for that reason. Part of the perspective that we had on this comes down to the fact that Andrew got voted to be president of the union even after all of this came out by 1,125 members of the union, which made him second place initially in the race if he hadn't been eliminated by 26 votes. This was 16% of the total student body. You understand, when he was initially appointed Senate E-Board liaison, I voted against his appointment because it was just too soon. I thought personally, just because I know him, that he could do a good job and I would trust him, but I couldn't explain to everybody, I don't have enough time to explain to everybody at the school why I felt like that, and I wouldn't be able to justify it to everybody because obviously different people feel different ways. I have my own perspective on GM Week because I'm the person who later finds out post-game, oh, certain candidates were apparently being followed around campus by other candidates' staff in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning. Certain candidates had this happen. I can tell you, for example, just on my experience, not every Greg poster that was ripped down was done by Sedano. Not every Sedano poster that went missing was taken down by Greg. Holly Nelson and I spent one in morning when I was supposed to be in class, walking around campus, ripping down posters that had, of Greg posters and other things that had, Greg and Andrew posters that had swastikas, random teeth, and penises drawn on them. There's just a lot of general vandalism that goes on. When it comes down to it, my view on this is I still haven't decided whether or not it's appropriate for me to vote since I'm kind of voting on whether I think my own decision was appropriate. But this is a guy who was in the process of bringing about $60,000 in new student jobs to the union. He's already not in office anymore. I personally don't believe he's going to try to regain office and wouldn't help him to just because of the things that have happened previously. And clearly a lot of students feel one way about it. A lot of students, however, feel the other way about it. So I just feel currently we should let it rest. There's no more reason to drag this all through the mud and make us all constantly deal with it anymore. Because I don't want to think about this day anymore.
James, I've got a question or point. There is nothing to vote on for this motion tonight, correct? Okay, so no. The point, Trevor, right? I am willing to work with you this week in order to craft a motion so that next week we can have a motion on to the floor of the Senate. So I am willing to do that. Find me after the meeting and we can talk. You have my time.
Tommy. Again, I just want to state one last time that banning him, if you guys agree it's still the thing you want to do, is the wrong idea. Because banning him says that people who are elected next year, he's done for this year. He's done. It's over. But banning him says that people next year who vote, who get to know him, get to hear what he says, see all of his actions, because you better believe if he runs again, all that stuff's going to come up. They're going to see all of that. They're going to make their decision, and that's what it's going to be. And to be fair, Andrew has had a lot of punishment. I know he went into therapy from all the abuse he got from Yik Yak, because there was some, I'm sure no one in this room was part of it, but there were some terrible things said about him, and he was on the verge of an emotional breakdown for a long period of time. And it breaks my heart to see you guys still going after him like this, because this is just, you know, putting a stake in the stake room again for just an overkill. I do think, yes, maybe it was rash that we appointed him again. Maybe that should have been done later, if that was going to be done at all, in a more open process. But to ban him would just be a mistake. It would be not giving the people an option. I think someone mentioned a Nixon thing earlier. Nixon was never banned from office. I don't know where that came from, but he was pardoned, and he was never banned. So don't bring those falsehoods in here. And I agree if you guys do have valid concerns about him. Like, what he did was wrong. But if he runs again, and I really don't think he will, but if he runs again, everyone has a chance to evaluate and make their decision. And that's really it. And if you can't trust the people, what's the point of a democracy? We might as well just pull up and make all decisions ourselves. That's just, we're taking away an option of the people that, if it's there, let it be.
Jennifer?
I yield the ball, actually, sorry.
Yeah, the one point that I forgot was the other main factor in our decision not to permanently bar or remove Andrew from the race initially, when everybody keeps comparing this GM Week 2015's issues to GM Week 2014's, was GM Week 2014, the judicial board partly made the decision they did because the videos and proofs came out after everybody had voted, and they were voting on a constitutional amendment and positions for the alumni office, which are positions in perpetuity. It is impossible to remove alumni officers. With this, we felt that since the video came out ahead of time, the proof came out ahead of time, we publicly released the sanctions ahead of time, the Poly and Reddit and everything else had this on it, that it was appropriate to allow everybody to make their own decision instead of R&E playing God and electing Greg, since we're not supposed to decide races ourselves, regardless of how we feel about what happened. Jennifer.
Okay, so I know from most of the people in here, there's a lot of our constituents are very anti-Sedano, and that's the vibe I'm getting from you guys. But I have a lot of friends who did not support Andrew in the elections and definitely did not support what he did. They were very, very, very angry. But when I talked to them about this petition that was going to be addressed, they said that they thought it was overkill. They asked if, was he doing his job? And I said, yeah, he's doing a very good job at his job. And they said, then why would you bar him? Even though what he did was not good, was pretty bad, why would you take someone out of office who's doing the job that, by the way, requires them to go to both the Senate meetings, which have been known to run up to 5 hours, and Okay, one 6-hour meeting, and e-board meetings, which I don't think they've gone under an hour and a half this semester. He has to go to both of them and be a chair of a committee, so why would you bar somebody who actually legitimately wants to do that and help people? So I know sometimes it might seem like we're not listening to you guys for the people who are want to not bar Sedano, but there are constituents who go the other way. I yield to Josh.
Yeah, a lot of times it was brought up that the entire student populace is for this petition. I know for a fact it's not. I'm only new for Senate this year. I did not originally support Sedano. I was not involved in his campaigning at all. But just seeing him this year, I have felt that he was doing a completely adequate and, in fact, exemplary job. And this whole thing's kind of reminding me of the 8th Amendment because it's reminding me of cruel and unusual punishment. Thank you.
That's it. The queue is empty.
All right, so there's no more discussion on this topic, so we move on to the next item on the agenda, if I'm correct. However, I will make mention that there were motions given to me that will be addressed in new business.
Motion for a recess, 5 minutes. The people who want
I'm gonna have to head out.
recess.
All those in favor of a 10-minute recess, please raise your hands. 10-minute recess, be back here.
At 8:36. 8:36.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for returning in a timely fashion.
You got a fan?
No.
Next, all these people here. There are.
We have.
I didn't need
Guys,
I didn't need it.
Next, we have a motion that was given to us, so I will read it. Actually, no. We were going to have a presentation on it before it was read. It was requested by the Greenwich Council, so Mike, would you like to be the presenter for this? Read the motion. Once we read the motion, we go to discussion on the motion. So if you want to present and have responses back to you, you have to present first.
Okay, we'll read it again. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, so thanks everybody for coming. I think this is the most well-attended Senate meeting I've ever been at, so that's cool. Yay! On top of that, Senate, I assume everyone is in favor of this motion because, well, we talked to one person, Mike talked to Justin, they had some good back and forth, and we didn't hear anything from anyone else. So all the feedback I got was from a thread on Reddit, and I'll try to address it via things I heard there. I think there were kind of a bunch of arguments why we shouldn't have a GPA minimum or why we shouldn't increase it or for a number of things. So I'm going to try to talk about them first and then lead into why the Grad Council thinks we should have a GPA minimum for the Senate of 3.0. So I want to start out kind of dividing this into two pieces, the constitutionality and the practicality of the motion. The constitutionality comes first because if it's not constitutional, we can't really even deal with it. That said, I don't really want to, I'd like not to have a long discussion on it because ultimately it's not really our job. It's, well, Anthony, but he's not here, and the J-Board's job to decide issues of constitutionality. That said, I think it's plausible that this is well within the scope of the powers provided by the Constitution. There was some talk that the Article 9, I think, the article on removals of student government officials sort of implies that you need a 2/3 vote to remove a senator. There's additionally in Article 7, the second Article 7 in our well-edited Constitution, and Section 13 indicates that the Senate is capable, and as well the Institute, of applying certain thresholds, criteria, or what have you for a student to hold office. Hold office means, like, you know, be a senator, or be the PU, or be the GM. So we can apply criteria that you need to satisfy to apply for, to run for, and to stay a senator. And I think clearly then the second one The second of those two sections on removals, then to me seems to apply specifically to removing an individual senator for unique circumstances or not fulfilling their duties, something which is personal. Then the Senate addresses the singular person. Whereas Article 7, Section 13 is for applying level, balanced rules to every single senator, where we can say, if you don't meet this, no matter who you are, we're not going to talk about it, you're gone. You have to do this to be a senator. So I believe it is constitutional. On the issue of practicality, there were kind of two sorts of things which I think came up a lot. One is that it was unfair that we are in a way barring a certain subset of the student body from becoming senators. That one is a little questionable, mostly because over 2/3 of the student body has a 3.0. It's incredibly high, and so we're barely barring anyone. And I will get back to why that last third, it's not that they don't matter clearly, but why we think they shouldn't be running for Senate anyway. Another point against it, though, that some people make is that there's no correlation between your GPA and your qualifications to be a senator. I just want to point out that's really not our point we're trying to make at all. Clearly the votes determine who's qualified to be a senator, that's what does it. Whether you think there's a correlation or not, it's not really relevant to what I want to tell you. What I do want to tell you is that it's not really unfair to the bottom third. We're not here to protect the Senate from unqualified individuals. We're here to protect students from the Senate, essentially. So I think as grad students, we sit in a funny place between students and education, and we see kind of both sides of things. And so I think what happens sometimes, and if you were reading the Reddit thread, there's an interesting, kind of anecdote, I guess, from Kyle, who's a previous GM, who talked about one of his acquaintances who was on the Senate and didn't meet the apparent 2.5 minimum at the time for GPA, and she resigned because the workload of Senate wasn't allowing her to get the grades she wanted to do. And sort of that comes back to the core of our argument. Grades and education, because you're at college, come first. And in our mind, we've all been TAs. We all want you to succeed. And ultimately, you're here to get a good education and get a good job. There are a lot of places which won't even consider you if you don't have a 3.0. And frankly, you can't really put your GPA on your resume if it's not a 3.0 or higher. Most, like career places won't even recommend that you do it. But on top of that, many grad schools, national labs, places that will have hard and firm, they'll just throw out your resumes. They have too many applicants. If you have a clear-cut criteria by which they can, remove part of their applicant pool, they're going to do it. You want to have the highest GPA you can, and that should come first. And frankly, getting a 3.0 here really isn't that hard. And you should be excelling in your studies rather than spending 6 hours a night sometimes at Senate. What it comes down to is we are proposing this motion to make sure that students are focusing on their studies and not that the Senate isn't detracting from the education, because ultimately it's our job to help the student body and support student life and education here at RPI. Anything we do which works against that is completely reprehensible. So I think we need to, keep these things separate and well balanced. Anything else? All right. With that, you can read the motion. Go with it.
All right, here we go. The Rensselaer Union 46 Student Senate. Whereas the Rensselaer Union Student Senate is an organization of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute where education should always come first, especially in comparison to any extracurricular activities or organizations. Whereas the Rensselaer Union Student Senate requires a minimum of 4 hours a week, not including any extra responsibilities assigned. Whereas studying for the additional hours taken up by Rensselaer Union Student Senate could only help to improve the understanding of subject matter. Whereas members of the Rensselaer Union Student Senate have a responsibility as student leaders to look out for our fellow peers, help them accomplish as much as they possibly can, and ultimately become the best versions of themselves. Whereas grade point average, henceforth referred to as GPA, is a measure of success in a student's program at the institution. Whereas the administration has already shown that there is a need for student leaders to meet additional requirements by assigning the GM and PU minimum GPA requirements. Whereas the Rules Elections Committee has a GPA restriction that all candidates must satisfy, it does not apply to write-ins or appointments. Whereas there is no system currently in the Rensselaer Union Student Senate's bylaws to help its members maintain a good GPA. whereas over half the student body at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute has a GPA of 3.0 or higher, whereas over half of all students in all majors have a GPA of 3.0 or higher. Resolves that the Rensselaer Union Student Senate add the following to its bylaws. All senators, except those representing the current freshman class, shall be required to maintain, at minimum, a cumulative GPA of 3.0, and any senator who fails to meet the minimum cumulative GPA of 3.0 at the end of any semester shall immediately be removed from office. So moved by the Graduate Council.
All right, can I open up a queue for the purpose of this motion? The grad council, or specifically Tim, as he was the presenter, is going to be treated as presenter and will have the ability to respond. Justin.
So first off, I thought I was the king of unnecessary whereas clauses, but clearly I've been one-upped. So that's one. Next off, I'm going to read off a quick letter that I got from a constituent of mine, just to share with everyone. I'm writing to you as a member of the class of 2018 in regards to the proposed GPA minimum for student senators. The question of constitutionality aside, the implementation of this policy will be detrimental to student governance and student representation of the student body as a whole. As the motion currently reads, over half of all students have a GPA of 3.0 or higher. This means that about half of the student body will be excluded from participating in their Senate. Besides this turning away interested parties from an organization already struggling to sustain and increase involvement, this policy will unfairly skew representation away from those who may have a lower GPA than that was arbitrarily chosen by the Graduate Council as acceptable. The Student Senate is not an honor society. Members of the Rensselaer Union are adults and are therefore capable of making their own decisions. This capacity for decision making extends to an individual's acceptable GPA and the balance between their union activities and academics. The Senate, Rules and Elections Committee, and Graduate Council have no authority to make these decisions for capable adults. Furthermore, the director of the union and members of these bodies should not have access to students' academic performance, even if the information obtained is only a greater or less than figure. A student's GPA is not parallel to their performance as a member of student government. In fact, several studies have shown that college grades have no correlation to adult achievement. Go figure. Someone with a lower average GPA can very well outperform someone with a high GPA with qualities not dependent on their academic performance. Moreover, participation in activities such as Student Senate are often a driving force for success and allow students to add structure to their college careers. In order to keep the union a center of student leadership for all of its members, I urge you to vote against this motion and repeal all current academic benchmarking requirements for participation. Please let me know if you have any comments or questions. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you tonight. And I actually made a mistake. I meant to say class of 2017. Sorry. I'm a little tired. I'm running on very little sleep. So that's that. That came from one of our classmates. And it's probably, I think everyone got it. I could be wrong. But that's just one example. And I think it just speaks it really says exactly what needs to be said about this motion and about what's wrong with it and about why I said on Reddit, and I think it's still very true, that it is immoral. Whether or not it's unconstitutional is up for the J Board to decide, but that being said, we shouldn't be we shouldn't be going forward with motions that even have a hint of being unconstitutional. Am I at 5 minutes?
No.
Okay, cool. Just like we did with the e-borders, we had a question of constitutionality, so we didn't vote on it. So why are we voting on this? I don't know why we like to do this thing where we make some rules for some things and other rules for others. Unconstitutional is unconstitutional. We wouldn't be making a motion that's motion to I don't know, what could we do that's absolutely insane. Motion to no longer recognize Asia as a continent, or motion to just to recognize the moon as our new tech park. It would just be pointless because it's we don't know if it's constitutional or not. So why are we doing it? Great, thank you. That means I have 1 more minute to speak. Just kidding. So I'd like to finish this off by saying I would motion to postpone indefinitely this motion, considering it is unconstitutional. Motion to table indefinite. Motion to table. Motion to table. Finish the sentence.
Postpone indefinitely, you're correct.
Postpone indefinitely. Okay, so that one, and I think that's been, you know what, if we can get if someone wants to take it to the J board,
I'm
so be
seconding
it.
that motion.
So let's do that, all right? Because this is just ridiculous, it's unacceptable, it's rude to our classmates that will want to be on Senate one day, so let's go for it.
All right, I'm going to open up a queue for the discussion of whether or not to postpone indefinitely. Note that the debate on postponing indefinitely can relate to the merits of the motion itself. Paul.
Can we just not do this? Because then we're going to have to deal with it trying to be raised up again every week and I believe the principle of down in one applies to more than one thing.
Respond?
What?
Are you responding to this stuff?
So
Grants can. Don't back stuff away, everybody.
No, yeah, that's why I wanted to table
Because
it.
they immediately
Well, it's 'cause you
motion.
made it.
We don't usually have presenters continue responding outside of the main motion in the past.
So this motion.
So no, unless we get out of it, you're gonna have to get onto the queue. Would you like that to be out of the queue? Okay, Bill.
So my question is to you guys. So why didn't you necessarily try to affirm the constitutionality like before bringing it up? But then also, from what I mean, obviously this is my first year in Senate. From previous, I've heard that you guys have discussed this pretty much every year for the past 2 or 3 years or something like that. So what changed from those years to this year that made you question the constitutionality of it? Did you add something? Did you take out something?
So initially we weren't questioning the constitutionality of it. Someone found the section in Article 9 for disbarring, and for some reading of it, ignoring the whole rest of the Constitution, decided that that meant this isn't constitutional. I still believe that this is completely constitutional and that the article I mentioned, Article 7, the second one, Section 13, says we can in fact apply even across the board criteria for holding office. So I think it is completely constitutional. I think there's absolutely no reason for us to be discussing its unconstitutionality. Additionally, as our dear friend from the J board behind me whispered, we can't get official rulings until we do something. We can only appeal stuff. So ultimately, if you want to say absolutely this is 100% unconstitutional because we can't, we would have to pass it and appeal it. Or you can just try to vote down the motion normally. But saying it's unconstitutional doesn't get us anywhere.
Mike.
Oh, so the argument now is to postpone this indefinitely, right? Right. The reason for that is we believe it's unconstitutional. Comparing it to last time's effort, right, where we then sent it to R&E to investigate that. I'm not sure why this was not the plan this time instead of just never talking about it again. So that's kind of like a silly move. If you think it's not constitutional, you want R&E to investigate it, that's a move you can make instead of this one. In addition, I think throwing out crazy examples isn't proving any point. So we just talk about facts here.
Nick.
All right. Welcome to E-Board.
That Nick, along with the hat.
All right. I would like to point out a couple facts to bring up. First, the GPA minimum for running for Grand Marshal or President of the Union, according to the course catalog for the past 5 years, is a 2.5. It was rumored to be a 3.0, but this was proven incorrect after concurring with Mark Smith earlier today. For a note, if the executive board so finds that this bars a specific portion of your constituents from joining the Senate, it is within our budgeting guidelines that you cannot prohibit a member of an activity fee paying union member from joining your organization. Which is why for like club sports, they have to have open tryouts, which is why you can't fund certain groups if they exclude others. If the budgeting group so finds this, your funding can be taken away. Now, some snark was thrown back that you guys approved the budget. I want to make you aware that if you throw down that budget, that's $4.5 million of work that you'll be throwing down. And if this continues, will financially cause trouble to the union, and I will personally be a pain in your ass. But that's besides the point.
That
That said, that is my personal opinion. Obviously, it's up to the board to decide if it comes to that. In anecdotal evidence from my personal fraternity, we have a GPA minimum of 2.6 for any member. After that, they go on academic probation. Now, I obviously wouldn't recommend anybody with below a 2.6 getting involved in much because I think that they should focus more on their studies. However, you are all adults. It is not your job to protect people from themselves, and I understand the 3.0 purpose. I do. I recently accepted a job offer, and I talked extensively about GPA with some of the recruiters. But I do not believe that it is our job to tell people what they should focus on. They should know that for themselves. And if 3.0 is an issue, then that's a larger issue at hand. Further, I would just like to ask, does anybody know the current percentage of students that would not be allowed on the Senate due to the current GPA minimum?
33%, roughly.
Okay. Other than that, I have nothing further to add.
Nick without the hat. Oh, sorry. Unless grads want to respond.
Oh, sorry, current or 3.0?
No, we said
would be the current.
I'm sorry.
So the current is 2.5, so much less than.
Point of order. Why is Tim still allowed to respond?
Sorry, some light of information. 7% of the campus population has below a 2.5 GPA, I think is.
But it was the last time we checked club officers, it was about a year ago. It's 7%,
So something to consider, and those are individuals who are involved with things like that.
So I think a lot of people that are concerned about this, they're concerned about barring or forcing people to not be able to participate in student government. If you're in this meeting, you should absolutely be participating in student government. Whether or not you're on student senate, you should join a student senate committee. And so if you, I don't want to prohibit or ban anyone from joining committees. If there is something that you are really passionate about, you should be working on it in a committee, whether or not you're on the Senate or not. I just feel that for the Senate, we should have a high standard, essentially. And I would like to yield my time tonight.
Cool. I just want to address one point you said about stopping funding for clubs that bar people.
Sure.
Yeah. Like Nick said, our committee is open to everybody. Just how sports are
I was
open.
talking about Senate specifically.
Guys, please let Mike speak.
Sorry,
Get back to the queue.
go ahead.
So Senate has committees as well. So even though senators, which are elected positions, might have requirements, you can still join Senate in different capacities. So I don't see us stopping anyone from joining. Just how the sport has open tryouts and then limits their pool as well, we can do the same kind of go this way.
Okay. Sean.
Okay, so I would like to speak briefly about an event that happens before my time here as a student. I'm a sophomore. This was relayed to me by another student. There was an event that took place a while ago where the student government made a vote of no confidence against the president, and one of those students, I believe, was the GM at the time, was expelled from the school based on GPA. Yeah? No. Is that what happened?
She failed all of her classes that semester.
Okay.
That is the same thing that we
Okay.
Guys, please let Sean finish.
So that was just a rumor, but still, I would be wary of kind of putting forward motions like this that limit the power of student government and therefore the democratic process. That's it.
Thomas.
Thank you.
This is still about debating about table it, right?
Yes. So technically, the motion to postpone indefinitely does allow for debate referring to the motion itself. It is not limited to discussion of whether or not to postpone indefinitely.
So, the only reason I think there should even be a GPA minimum for Senate is to protect kids from themselves. And not because they're adults, and yes, you can make decisions, but I think for the benefit of the person, having a GPA minimum is good because you're paying a lot of money to go to this school. And like, it would be a real shame that you weren't able to do well in your classes because of Senate. I think that is something like we as the Senate should look out for each other, and anyone else who wants to take this path. And it's a good idea. But a 3.0 is like, I mean, granted, you guys are saying it's easy to do. That's it from your perspective. You can't say that for every single person who comes to this school, that 3.0 is easy. That's the most objective statement I've ever heard said in the Senate. It doesn't matter what you show me. That's not, that doesn't prove it. What does that prove? Like, that shows that a certain amount of kids, yes, can do it, but it doesn't mean it's easy for every kid. How hard does one kid have to work to get a 3.0 is different than how hard Joe would have to work or Austin would have to work. How can you say that? Like, that makes no sense. I think this should be done. I think something that's slightly above whatever we put you on academic probation is a good idea, just for the sole purpose of saving a kid from failing out of here and wasting, almost probably like $60,000+. Like, that would be the worst thing that could happen to someone. I don't understand how this has gotten this far. You guys do this every year. Every year it gets shot down. There's a reason why. There's no reason to send us to R&E because R&E looked at it last year. The same thing's going to happen. Same time it's going to get failed again. We should just vote on this.
Steven.
Call the question?
You never yield his time.
I never yield my time.
That's true.
I mean, I was gonna do them anyway, so.
Out of order.
Appeal it. Yes.
Yes. All right, so now we have to discuss the appeal. Each person gets a minute to discuss it. Or is that?
That's it.
This is ridiculous.
Please stand at ease. Thank you very much. While we figure out how we're going to address this.
Justin, 3 out of 4 guarantees. The one we don't know.
All right, here's how the appeal is going to work. The appeal is debatable because it is being applied to a debatable motion, which is the motion to vote indefinitely. It's going to require a majority vote in the affirmative to sustain the chair's decision. Voting in the negative means you agree with the initial motion, which was to call the question. There is a limit of 1 time every person may enter the queue for this debate, excluding the presiding officer, who may respond as many times as he so chooses. I'm going to open up a queue.
Yes means yes to the appeal. No means no to the appeal.
Other way around.
Other way.
I'm just going to make sure I say this correct. Voting yes means you are supporting the chair's decision. Voting yes means you are supporting the chair's decision, which means that you want the previous question to be ruled out of order.
So yes to Marcus, no.
Yes to Marcus. Yes. No goes to what you initially said. Could I open up a queue for discussion of the appeal of Marcus's decision? Benjamin.
Okay, I have 2 points. One is a question, and the other is a follow-up statement. It seems like I'm going to start with a follow-up statement because once I ask the question, I have to give my time to you. Anyway, so first off, I found that in the past, I found it oddly inconsistent.
And this can only be related now, the appeal. You can only talk about whether or not the appeal should be sustained. Should we be calling the question or not?
Yes,
That's all you can talk
that is what this
Okay,
is about.
sorry.
This is about previous instances that calling the question has been ruled out of order. In the past, it seems inconsistent how they've been called out of order. It seems like the only logic I have seen in it has been that there are people still in the queue and that the GM wishes the discussion to continue. But if you rule it out of order on that basis, you're defeating the entire purpose of the motion to call the question. Because calling the question is explicitly because there's still people in the queue. Instead of just deciding on your own that we should continue discussion, why not just let it proceed to the vote that it proceeds to, and have the entire Senate decide to end the queue and go straight to a vote? And secondly, what was the basis for calling this out of order?
Michael is the only person on the queue before James who I know historically is going to call the question anyway.
Wait, so
discrimination. I literally just wanted to hear Michael speak. That was it.
Thank you.
That was the only reason I ruled it out of order. Other than that, I knew discussion was going to end afterwards because it was going to be called again, and I would have ruled that in order.
So this whole thing's unnecessary.
James.
Yes.
I'm a guess. I don't know what to say.
Michael, pick something like you and say something.
No, I can't talk about it.
Mike,
Let's go. I'm done.
the queue is empty.
Let's go.
Okay, so let's vote. Vote yes if you agree, if you want, all right, I'm gonna put this in layman's terms because I'm so sick of Robert's Rules of Order right now, you have no idea. All right, so if you want to hear Michael Hahn speak and then James call the question, vote yes. If you want to call the question right now and vote on whether or not we end discussion immediately, vote no. All those in favor, vote yes.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Wait, raise your hands immediately. Holy crap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed.
We're fine. Oh my God. Jen's hiding back there.
Fails. All right, so now we're calling the question. All those in favor of ending discussion right now and moving forward with roll call.
Oh my God.
No, we're calling the question. We don't roll call on.
All right, my bad. Wrong motion.
No one seconded.
Everybody, please listen for just a moment. Just a moment, guys. We gave a small break so that we could come back to this with a full, ready mind, so we can just proceed through this. So let me explain what's going.
Is your intention to roll call on the calling the question?
No, the one after that.
So then let me explain the vote that we're about to have before we start that. Okay. So we are now going to vote on whether or not we're going to call the question, which will then end discussion on the motion. We will vote as to whether or not to postpone this indefinitely. So we are voting now to vote on whether or not we will stop discussing it and vote on whether or not we postpone it indefinitely. If that fails on postponing it indefinitely, then we return back to the main queue to discuss the motion at hand as it was presented with no changes to it. All right. All those in favor of ending discussion right now and moving to vote, please raise your hand. All those opposed? All right, passes 16-6-1. We are now going to vote without discussion on whether or not we will postpone the motion indefinitely. It has already been raised that we want to do a roll call vote for this, so we will do a roll call vote as dictated by the secretary, who will then record everybody's responses. Please listen. For the first time around, you can vote yes, no, or pass. The second time it comes around, it's yes, no, or abstain.
To be clear, the vote required to postpone the motion indefinitely is a simple majority vote. Postponing indefinitely will prevent us from discussing it at this meeting. That's it. They could bring this up again next meeting as many times as they want to until the Grand Marshal decides that they're simply doing it to delay the Senate and he can start ruling them out of order.
All those in favor of...
Did anyone
Oh, yeah, I was
second
just gonna
it?
go through it again to remind them, because I feel like I need to. All right, so, all those in favor of postponing indefinitely will vote yes. You can vote yes, no, or abstain. First, yes, no, pass, first time around. Second time around, yes, no, abstain. Secretary will call it out as soon as he is ready. Until then, please just sit for a minute.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Silently.
Is this
Keegan, I sent you.
Or yeah, but it doesn't have freshman in it. Is it alphabetical order or is
Yes.
it
Yes.
class alphabetical or
No,
just
alphabetical, broad alphabetical.
Everybody, you're not allowed to talk because we're not allowed to further discuss before we vote. So we need to sit quietly as per Robert's Rules of Order.
Amanda and Spencer.
All right, I'm ready. All right. Tommy Applet?
Wow, you butchered me.
I'm sorry.
Alpat.
Alpat.
I say no.
No. Nancy Bush?
No.
Mike Kayola?
I want to pass.
Pass. Caleb Caraway?
Pass.
Keegan Caraway? Pass. Jen Church?
No.
Joshua D'Amato?
No.
Justin Etzine?
Yes.
Alex Fox?
No.
She's done. Oh, sorry. Jenna, Michael Hahn?
No.
Paul Laurie?
No.
Jiska Krajewski?
No.
Tim Krentz?
No.
Bill Maynor?
No.
Austin Miller?
Pass.
Samantha Notley?
No.
Victoria Fong? And she's gone. Cameron Riley?
No.
Spencer Scott?
No.
Steven Speraza?
No.
Wilbur Verde? Is that how you say it?
You butchered that.
That?
You could say Velarde.
Velarde? Yeah,
No.
sorry. No, okay. Joe Venusto?
No.
Benjamin Walcott?
No.
James Whelan?
Pass.
Amanda Humans?
No.
Okay. That brings us back up to the top. Mike Kayola?
No.
Caleb Caraway?
Abstain.
Keegan, no. Austin Miller?
No.
No. And James Whelan?
Abstain.
All right. 1, 2.
That's why. Please remain silent till the vote is announced.
What about people not here? Do they count as anything or no? I don't remember under our rules.
No.
This is not a total voting membership. Just
Thank you.
announce the numbers as we would
Yep.
usually.
Motion fails 122.
We're all going in the poly now.
All right, going to resume discussion in the original queue, discussing the motion. So the grads are now presenters again, and we're going to go starting with James.
I've got 2 points to make. First, I plead the fifth, and the second, I call the question.
I'm not responding to
Wait, what? We called the
Justice,
question.
though, right?
What? No, we called the question game.
Nope. Because once a motion is made, then you can't respond.
Because we went down and we came back up and moved on in the
I
queue.
can respond to that.
Motion is made, all discussion stops.
We we moved out of the discussion. All right. Back to the next.
He got the second. Let's go. So I am going to rule this out of order, and I'm going to explain this time. I just counted. We have had 9 people, excluding James, pleading the fifth, speak on this. Actually, 8 people because one of them was calling the question. So we have had 8 people out of our 26 voting members speak on this so far. So I don't think that everybody has had the chance to speak yet, so I'm ruling it out of order on that note, as well as the fact that there are 6 people still on the queue, which is almost as many people as have spoken. So, as they have not yet repeated, I am ruling it out of order.
I move to appeal that.
Oh, no. Is there a second?
Who just called that? Who was that?
Ben's been attempting to appeal it.
Thank you.
Is there any second on the appeal? All right, the appeal fails.
Seconded. No, I'm gonna second that.
Wait,
who seconded it?
Me. I'm seconding that.
You said it after you said it.
Yeah.
Because I was writing. I was still writing things. Sorry, Dad.
All right, for the sake of being fluid, I'm going to understand your situation with taking minutes while
Sorry about
simultaneously
that.
speaking as a full-fledged senator. So he has appealed, which now means that we return to the queue where everybody has one chance to speak as to whether or not my decision was correct. At the end of which we will vote. If you vote yes, you agree with me, objecting to calling the question, and if you disagree, then you'll be voting along Keegan. All right. Opening the queue.
I'm going.
No, I'm just speaking.
Amanda.
Maybe you shouldn't immediately rule out of order when somebody calls. Just let us know whether or not we want to keep talking about it. Because I think since we just voted that we want to keep talking about it, I think that we do want to keep talking about it.
My response to that is I was trying to skip past that part.
I know, but now we're in this.
I can't predict you guys. I really can't.
I think you can because we just went through this process.
Okay, so we cannot stop the back and forth. Would you like to respond? That was my just responded. Okay, Spencer.
So I'm of the thought that we called the question because we want to save time, and that has proven that it does not. So I would like us to discuss. I agree with Marcus. It's a waste of everyone's time to keep calling the question, having an appeal when you don't agree with Marcus because he wants to discuss. If you don't want to talk, leave, I guess. I don't know.
No. Okay. Benjamin.
I would like to reiterate the point I made previously, is that I do not believe those are valid grounds for calling it out of order. That is the point of the motion. Leave it to the Senate to decide whether or not they want to continue discussion. This is a motion that should be relatively quick, because it should just proceed immediately to a vote. If people want to continue discussion, they can just vote no.
Michael.
I have a full page of notes that I didn't get to talk about yet. I've been on both queues, so I want to talk, so I don't want to call the question.
James.
Yeah. A similar motion was brought to us about a year ago, and I hope most senators have read this motion and made up their minds already. It is your job as a senator to prepare for these motions and these votes, because that is what we do here. We try to go efficiently and speedily, which doesn't actually happen. I know I prepared, I came with my mind made up, and I hope everyone else did their job. That's all I got.
My comment in response to that is that we have 9 people who were not senators the last time this was discussed, which is a significant changeover, which is, again, why I want more people to discuss it.
I'd like to point out that the whole point of a call to question is to end the discussion, and constantly calling out of order defeats the purpose, and I'd just like to make that point. Just, if you can let people vote on it.
I have voted in order before.
Mike.
I agree. This should be called out of order. It's his right to call this if he wants to. But again, people want to talk about this. You just gave a whole speech about your discussions. I'm sure other people have speeches as well. Let's hear them real fast and we can get out of here.
The queue is empty.
All right, so we are now going to vote. All those in favor of rejecting my calling it out of order and then moving to vote immediately on this, whether or not we're going to call the question, vote no. If you agree with me and you want to hear more and you want us not to call the question, vote yes. All those in favor of not calling the question, please raise your hands immediately.
There were some valid points raised.
All those opposed to All right. Appeal fails 16-5-2. Next on the queue.
Phil.
Yield my time to Michael Hahn.
Guys, he was next on the queue anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to say that GPA is not the only metric that determines a student's academic ability. There are other metrics that's like the biggest quantitative assessment that you can have, but there are also other assessments. One of the main reasons that this got turned down last year was it didn't give a probationary period. So basically, there are people on the Senate right now that if this passes, they would be removed from the Senate next semester. I know that there are at least 3 people that are not meeting the requirement right now. Barring 50% of students to represent 100% of students, it's not 50%, but it's like 33%, whatever. Like Nick said, GPA requirements 2.5, not 3.0 for the GM. So why are we holding ourselves higher to a standard that even the GM and PU don't even have to meet? From this motion, it seems like the goal is to give academically struggling students more time for academics. But I don't think this motion achieves that. I think if a student is doing well for several semesters and has a high cumulative GPA, one bad semester might not bring them down below 3.0. But if someone had a bad freshman year and has been doing really well to try and get that GPA up, that hasn't gotten to that 3.0 mark yet, then they can't be in Senate with this motion. I think one suggestion, if you really want like a higher GPA minimum, is set the cumulative GPA requirement lower. I think we should keep it at a 2.5. Set a semester GPA, say your most recent semester has to be higher than a certain number. That would enforce a GPA requirement. I am not in favor of having a GPA requirement in general. But it encourages people to not have to pay for past mistakes when they're trying to make it up. If you're a sophomore and you have a first year GPA of like a 2.5 because you do bad, and then you have to get over a 3.5 to get that 3.0 and get the cumulative GPA. Like, I don't think that's fair, especially if you're a sophomore right now. You have 1 semester to make up for 2 semesters of poor grades, and say you do get a 4.0, like that's a lot of work to overcome. Lastly, you said you wanted to protect the students from the Senate. This has been said before, but let people decide whether or not they want to join or not. We have trouble having members in the first place. We don't have 60 million people running for Senate every year. Last year, we had 4 people run for 4 positions for my class. The year before that, we had 5 people running for 4 positions, but 1 was not seriously interested. My freshman year, we had 4 people running for 4 positions. So there isn't an overwhelming demand, so let's not just like say, oh, now we're going to cut the prospective pool even smaller and not have a full Senate next year. That is, I think that's all I want to say.
I can respond now, right?
Yes, you can.
Louise, I can respond. You didn't have to.
I yield to the floor.
He's the presenter.
And then after the floor is done, it goes to.
All yours. Yeah, anyway, so I understand the whole barring people thing is multiple, but 75% of the population of the school can still apply based on the 3.0 rate. That's not horrible at I do want to point out fact correction real fast. 60 million people could not actually apply for Senate. So the school has a less small population than that. Point that out. But I understand the point there, and I understand the point of having that passed and creeping up on you, right? Once again, I want to say this was out in the public and it was sound to you guys, and no one sent us comments. Not a single complaint was sent to us about changing it, putting a period on.
We talked to you.
This is the first time
We had a great conversation.
Guys, please let Mike speak.
Sorry, I'll rephrase. No one came to speak to me. I had to go with Justin. Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, that works.
If there's a period you want, where if you think you have a GPA and you can check on it later on, like you mentioned, something on a plan like that can be amended. If 3.0, that number is too high, that can also be amended. These are all your powers. You don't have to talk about them. I'd rather talk about them now than just barring communication completely on every single thing or calling a question before anyone else should talk. So Mike, thank you for talking. I appreciate your comments.
Let's make it 4-1.
Michael, would you like to speak again?
Yeah, so I am also on the queue. So I think I'm like just hesitant because even the 25%, it's you're saying like, oh, like it's still 75% of people that can still run, but that's not the entire student body. Like, why are 75% of students representing 100% of students? I think the idea that you can say, oh, we can just amend it is not addressing the fact that people do not want to change the GPA minimum or even put in place a GPA minimum. The probationary period, I still think like is important because whatever, and it's going to be hard to like put that in an amendment in something that's so well defined as it is, because it was so beautifully written. I was going to say something else, but I forgot. Okay, I guess I will yield to Tommy.
So I actually wanted to talk about one thing Michael brought up. I don't think the semester thing's a good idea, because it could also work like the exact opposite way you just said. Whereas like for me, for my major, for example, like it was like I didn't even have to try freshman year and like got 4.0s. But like now like it's so much. I don't
Guys, please let Thomas
They
speak.
look bad, but what I say, the amount of effort I have to put in now is very different, and that would be a very like crazy thing to say, like, oh, every semester you have to hit a certain threshold. Where like semester to semester, kids might have vastly different things. You might go from taking like 4 gen psychs or gen psych equivalents to like 4, what's a hard class at RPI?
Fields and waves.
Fields and waves. That class sucks. 4 fields and waves. Like it would be like pretty tough to differentiate like how someone's doing in that regard. And secondly, I don't understand why we're like even trying to raise the GPA minimum. Like it just makes no sense. And this is like Mike, what you were saying. This is the first time like, I've ever gotten emailed about something. I got 5 emails about this today. So you definitely like did not like. I think when you're saying like people are okay with it is wrong. Like this is the first time I've ever actually got emailed. I got 5 in one day. They're all from different people. That never happens. So I think my constituents are unhappy about it. I'm sure everyone has their opinion on it, but I think this is not a good idea. This will reflect very badly on the Senate, and I don't know. I guess I can't yield back to Michael.
Nope. Nope. You want to go?
I'll give you some of it.
Okay. Or you can share the reply. Okay.
So I want to say that I don't think we ever said that everyone's okay with this. I always said that you guys were okay with this because none of you emailed me. Not a single person came to me saying that. Only one person came to me in full support of it, and then other than that, but none of you guys came. If you got 5 emails from your people, and you're like, okay, cool, and didn't tell me about it, I mean, I feel like that's a little bit on you because I'm the one who talked to GVM.
Guys, let Mike talk.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely. You could talk to me anytime, Tommy. I mean, his face is beautiful. I know I shaved for you. But anytime you guys could talk to me about this. And I want to mention real fast, this was brought up earlier as well, that this was brought up last year, right? And why bring it up again? This is a place to compromise. Things have changed in the past year. The administration has told us that they're moving teens and stuff from 3.0 to 3.5 because literally everyone had 3.0. So, yeah, literally. Yeah, so the point that they moved that up as well is also a different story. So it's not like we're doing the same thing every year, like, oh, hit you guys. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure that check out. But, Tim, you want to go on with one?
Sure. So, the point of not communicating with us outside the GBM is kind of, I think, what leads back to us then having these gigantic discussions, calling the question, ruling that out of order, appealing it because people don't want to talk about it, but other people do, and that conflict is leading to some of the issue where we have people like James who came in, he said he had made up his mind already. And so, but then if we want to come to the GBM and discuss it, and he's already made up his mind, maybe we should have been talking outside. I think that's sort of a dynamic that needs to be developed a little more so we're not slogging through these long GBMs. And the other thing I'd just like to bring up kind of in response to sort of this idea that excluding people is making, a small percentage represent the whole student body. I think it's, there's a inherent, mental disconnect there because we're 26 people representing the student body. That's what represent means. And we're supposed to be student leaders. We should be role models. Saying that we, don't need to be basically glowing model citizens for RPI is sort of weird. I think we should be. We're supposed to be leaders. We're supposed to be improving the campus. We're supposed to be showing other students, you can do all this extracurricular stuff and you can succeed. And you're right. I think Tommy said it. I said it was easy. You're right, it's absolutely not easy. But plenty of people do get a 3.0, and some of them do it by working incredibly hard. Some of them do it by not working hard. But the people who aren't getting 3.0s and and are working incredibly hard clearly can't afford to also be spending time on the Senate. If it's not easy for you to get a good grade, you need to clearly be working very hard at it, and spending some of that time on Senate is not going to help you. And I just have to keep coming back to the idea that ultimately you're here for an education. The Senate is supplementary to that.
I'd also just like
Oh yeah, sorry, Nick.
Yeah, I'm a graduate council. I'm part of the graduate council.
Point of order, you have designated a presenter, and that's Tim Krantz.
What?
So the designated presenter should have been the grad council because that was the body
that's
that
not
was
my
on
problem.
the motion.
It
says the graduate council.
It's presented by Mike Kaola. Okay, so we're going to, your motion says presented by Mike, so thank you. We're going to limit it in the future to Mike Kaola, so listed as presenter. Okay, Paul.
I want to point out, there are people have different commitments and different things going on, but there are examples. Essentially, we're here at college, and people should be spending time working on stuff, but at the same time, the 6 hours that you spend a week working on Senate, if people could choose, can always make time to study and do more work. I probably wouldn't be spending most of the time I spend in Senate doing stuff. I have a 2.99 GPA right now, in part because last year, you all know, I had to be R&E chair because nobody else wanted to do it, and I pulled a 2.6 GPA last semester. Because there was a job nobody wanted to do, I was forced to do it in perpetuity, so I was just made chair so we could fill our committee. And that's what went down with R&E. Because the previous chair stepped down because she just felt like stepping down. So I just don't feel that it's essentially appropriate to reduce the amount of people who can, in the student body, who can hold positions. And also, there can be a lot of different situations, but at the end of the day, it's everyone's choice on what they want to do, and saying that the only way you can be a role model is through your grades is a slightly odd position for you guys to be taking, especially when you guys all have to have 3.0s because you're grad students. You guys are just essentially coming in and imposing different standards for your own activities on all of the undergrads as the graduate council. How do you expect everybody to feel about this? Because whether or not that's what you want to do, that's what you do and come in and do every single year.
Thank you for the snaps, Mr. Mayor, I think. Well, I understand the frustration. If 3.0 is not the number again, you can lower it.
Your name.
Garoon. Thank you. Sorry. So if 3.0 is not the number you want, you can lower that as well. That's also up for debate here. Some of the grad students need to help with 3.5 higher as well. So it's not like we're going to standards. We have hard classes as well, and we have to keep up our grades too. I don't think it's ever been said that GPA is the only measure for leadership, but it's definitely one that we should try to raise to, right? And I mean, your example, your hardship, which I'm sorry for. I want to lead to an example of Senate responsibilities took away some of your grades. You had some higher grades, and then you had to do all this R&E responsibility, right? And your grades suffered. I don't want that. I don't think you want that either. You got to struggle through more responsibilities, and your grades suffered. So I think if we can stop more of that, we'll be in a better place.
Tim.
Oh, really? Sorry, I yield my time. I don't know why I'm
Are you going to someone?
Sure, Nick wants to talk. I forgot about that.
So we, as a graduate council, we're representing graduate students. You guys might have gotten emails, from your constituencies. This is what the graduate population wants. We didn't get any emails from our constituencies about this. There was a bunch of posts on Reddit. I don't, people's names, I don't know who's who exactly, but we didn't get anything about this. So yeah, that's.
Any response?
Yeah, so
You're responding.
Great comment, Nick.
Thomas.
Bad motion. I yield to Justin.
All right, cool. So, if we were sitting here discussing to bar people on Senate based on how much income their family has, or what ethnicity they are, or let's see, what race they were, or what religion.
Guys, please let Justin make his point.
We would not be having this. Oh, well, maybe it's okay. There are a lot of things that factor into someone's GPA, and I think that barring someone by their academic standing is just as deplorable as, maybe a little bit less, but still deplorable. Still pretty deplorable. So just keep that in mind. Also, on top of that, there are a lot of reasons why someone I like Marcus's face on me right now. Sorry. I also would like to say that the GPA, a lot of things that are factor into how you do a course. There could be a professor that neglects to provide you any information on how you're doing until past the drop deadline. There's a lot. You could be you're having issues outside of at home. There's a lot of different things other than just not trying hard enough. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to spend their time in a certain way, let them. That's their call. I know that's been said already. So. Thank you. Care to respond to that, Mike?
I do. Spencer, do you want to say something?
No, you can't. You can only say something.
You could yield to Spencer if you wanted to. Would you either respond or yield to someone?
Okay, yeah, I'll respond. So, Justin, what you said was literally just the point of the whole motion. Was if you have other things taking you away from your schoolwork, which is the reason you are in college, unless there's some other reason I don't know about. That'd be great. Who knows? If you have other external factors, you should not be piling on a work requirement of 6+ hours a week.
Tommy.
For Senate. And that's really the crux of the argument here. And coming up with more extraneous reasons, or going full Hitler and making it about race or income or whatever. I feel like
Rave reply.
That's the
Steven, hold on. Before I come on, please stop the personal comments. You should be addressing the motion. You should be addressing the floor. You can address comments that people have previously made. Please do not be addressing specific people. This is going too far. Steven.
So a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said, so I'll try and keep it short. Originally, I was in favor of this motion to some degree, but after giving it a good amount of thought, I'm kind of leaning against it because there are some excellent senators who have below a 3. I really don't think it should be 3. I think it's a little high. Again, as stated earlier, it's above the GMP requirement. I'm going to assume that the 3, as you said, was negotiable. I'm pretty sure you guys probably might have planned on it getting knocked down a bit in GPM or GBM. I don't necessarily believe it's really fair to keep saying, oh, we didn't receive any emails from the senators. I mean, I spoke to Spencer. I said I think it should be maybe below a 2.5, and yeah, maybe we should have emailed you, but at this point, it really doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make the motion any better. We still need to work on trying to make it the best motion that we can, do our best as senators to do a good job with this motion. So I don't think that that's really valid anymore. Yeah, we might have, but we should probably just work on solving it now. I think that was pretty much all that I wanted to say. So I'm going to yield to my man Tommy Alapat.
So the point I actually meant to say last time and I forgot was that, like, for me, for Senate, it actually helps me provide structure in my day, and it helps me plan my day out. And I'm the type of person where if I don't have things to do, I get sidetracked very easily, and it's harder for me to do work. Like, I grew up, I always did a lot of things. I never had time to do anything, so I had to be very structured in how I got stuff done. And when I came here, I played soccer and I got hurt, and I couldn't play anymore. And that semester when I didn't play, it was really hard for me to get work done because I didn't have the balance. Like, I didn't have something else to look forward to doing, or something that not even look forward to doing, but just something that I would have to get this done to go to that. So taking Senate away as an option for kids who like me need that type of structure and grew up with that, I think that's a huge negative. And this was actually originally my biggest issue with this, was that when you're used to such a routine, it is very hard to just plan out your entire day by yourself. That's one of the hardest things for kids who come to college. And I think that's something Senate or any club you join, it's really helpful doing. It gives you an order to what your day. So you're not just, oh, I'm done with class. I have this 8-hour block of time where it's somewhere I need to get done this homework and this homework, and then eat dinner and go to sleep. But it's I have Senate at 7 on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, I need to be able to get this done so I have time to do Senate, have that time budgeted out. I think it really helps with time management for kids. And I think that's something that we should look at. And I think also joining Senate could improve someone's GPA because of that structure getting put into their day-to-day life. I'll yield to Mike.
You can't yield.
It's
going to go to Mike.
Anyway, yeah, whatever.
So I'll apply to you because you're talking about it. I'll take the yield as well, just so you feel happy about it.
Appreciate it. Mike, keep going.
For the structure argument, great. Instead of Senate, though, where you have a structure to be, right? You have a 4-hour block of studying or tutoring, I guess, right? The other structure blocks you can do that can help you academically. Over Senate, where we're discussing some things that make sense, some things that don't make sense. You understand what I'm talking about?
I get what you mean, right?
Yeah. So the point structure, I understand where you're coming from, but I think there's better places you can utilize your time than Senate, especially if you're struggling in some stuff, or you need the structure, or you're right below the threshold for a 3.0, whatever the GPA requirement is to be here. Once again, you guys seem to have a problem with 3.0. Is there a number you like better than 3.0? Because I have not heard it yet.
Guys, please let Mike finish.
So, as it works out, I'm not sure if everyone knows, is you can amend this motion to change that number anywhere between, I believe, 2.5 and a 4.0 at this point. So, you could do that, and we could see what happens instead of discussing about how 3.0 is too high.
Marcus.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this relatively brief. Hi, my name is Marcus. I chair the Senate, and as chair of this organization, it's my job to help you guys, do what you need to do, not only in this organization, but outside, and make sure that you're not losing yourselves to anything that may or may not be assigned to you. So when people have told me that they have issues in a class or they need more help, I've worked with them, I've tried to get them more resources, I've tried to give them more time, and I say, look, if you're doing that, that's fine, I'll get somebody else to do this. I've tried to express to people that I think academics is the most important thing, and if people are having those issues, please let me know. I have definitely not let some people do some things when they have asked because I remembered, last week they said they were having trouble here, so I said, no, I'm not gonna give you this additional thing until I'm sure you're solid on this. And people have reacted okay to that so far, but that is one of my responsibilities, and again, I make myself as a resource to you because I've worked with BALAC, I've worked with a lot of different people on campus that can help you should you ask for that help. Also, there are now 7 people on the queue, 4 of which were not on Senate last year. That's all I have to say.
Nick with the hat.
Can I
Yeah, absolutely, sorry.
break down Marcus. Everyone, if you need help, go to Marcus, please. I mean, I'm not stopping you guys from going to get other things, helpful things happen, right? It's just another step to do that. And I just want to make clear, because I think, I'm not sure if this is clear, this is not a personal attack from the grad council. I like most of you guys here.
Nice save.
I need you guys off here. If that's an issue, if you feel like you're going to get kicked off, or you have a friend who wants to get kicked off, we can put this in effect for next year. I don't have a problem with that either. This is for the benefit of the community and the Senate, and it's not against any single one of you guys.
Nick with the hat.
I just have a question that, as far as I've been listening, has not come up. And that is, is part of the motivation here that you guys feel that as grad students, because you're upheld to a higher academic standard, that you would like that seen for the rest of the Senate? No? Okay. That was just something that had crossed my mind, and I don't like to assume anything. It makes a lot of asses out of me and you, and I'm sorry I'm using poor language again, Marcus.
Seriously, man? We talked about this.
Shut up.
It's my house right now.
Either way, thanks for clarifying. I just wanted to ask.
So the answer to that was no. Sorry if you didn't see my shake my head no. Every grad student is held up to a different standard. There's a 3.5 GPA requirement. Each school has their own different requirements as well. If I asked you all to stand for those requirements too, you would all hate me. So why would we do that? Now this is just to keep a higher standard for the whole Senate. I think 2.5 is a ridiculous low GPA for a minimum, and I want to increase that minimum.
All right, so I'm next in the queue. I don't speak much. I usually sit here and try and track all of your names. But I do feel strongly about this in that it's been brought up that we are a representative body. There are 26 people in here who can vote, sometimes 27, depending on if you tie or not, who get to make decisions for approximately 7,000 or so students, both undergraduate and graduate here. People have expressed that they've heard from their constituents. The grads have said that this is coming from opinions of the grads as whole. Undergrads have brought up the opinion that we've gotten emails from people saying yes or no. If the result of this discussion, if we decide to pass this motion with any requirement, is going to affect every single student, grad and undergrad, here at RPI. There are not many decisions that we make that have such a direct effect on students as to whether they can do something or not. When we decide on whether or not to pursue a project, most likely pursuing or not pursuing that project is not going to directly affect someone if they choose to make a decision to do something. I'm going to go with the first thing I've made. If we decided to not purchase picnic tables last year, we would not have made any major difference to a student on a day-to-day basis in a decision that they could make. It is very different than there are picnic tables on campus before and after the project. Are there more? Yes, it's a great thing. Would having that not happen have prevented someone from sitting at a picnic table? No. If we pass this motion, this is theoretically going to affect, right now, 33, based on the current number, students who will immediately not be able to run for Senate. It has an immediate effect. If we're going to make a decision that affects the student bylaws, I feel like this should be put to a referendum for the students. We have the ability within our bylaws to push a motion, like a constitutional amendment, to the students for a decision. There's nothing preventing us from sending an amendment to our own bylaws to the students to get their opinion as a whole. If the students in general feel strongly that there should be a number that we put out as a referendum for Senate requirements, so be it. But I don't think that as 22 right now voting members, we should be making a decision that affects 33% of $8,000 is between 1,000 and 2,000. I'm not doing the math so well in my head right now. That's a lot of people that we're affecting right now based on this vote with the current number that could theoretically be amended. So my opinion is that if we want to pass any type of requirement, it should be done through a campus-wide referendum.
Just that's my job now. So I understand, yeah, we represent the body, and all our decisions represent all the students. So I understand this one represents them as well, but I don't think they elected us to make decisions for them. So I have no problem with us making decisions for the students. And if you want to make a referendum out of it, we can do that as well. I don't care. I mean, I know, but I mean, I don't see why this one's any different. If there were no picnic tables last year, I would have sat on no tables all year. There's one by my office, and then it rained on it. just a table. Yes, I know. So I'm saying no, but we were elected by the students to make decisions for the students. That's why there's not 8,000 people in here. There were earlier, but now they're all gone. So I think we have the right to make the votes for them. If you want a referendum now, we can do that too. I have no problem with that. The students can decide how this works out. But you have to put a motion on the floor. Seriously.
Okay, Keegan.
Oh, I actually can speak now?
Yes, you can speak now.
So I'd like to say to Mike, sorry I didn't talk to you today. I actually received an email today and 2 individuals approached me, but they did it today, so I didn't really get a chance to come find you guys. And luckily the views have already been discussed. As secretary, I've recorded everything that's been said so far, and we're getting to the point where it's a real circular conversation. No one suggested a change, so I'd like to call the question because I feel like I keep hearing the same points and writing them down. So I'm sorry, but that's, yeah, call the question.
Second.
All those in favor of ending the discussion?
How many new people on the queue still?
There are 4 people in the new section of the queue. However, one of them has spoken already by being yielded to.
And 3 of them are not senators.
3 of them are not senators.
Yeah, fuck us, right?
Guys, there is a motion on the floor to call the question.
All those in favor of ending discussion immediately and moving to vote on the motion as currently reads with no amendments to the motion, please raise your hand now. Raise it high so I can count it readily. Why are people still slowly raising their hands? I don't know. Do it. All those opposed to calling the question, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Keep your hands out.
Oh, come on. You have long arms. I know you can do better than that.
Are you getting the people next to you? Yes.
All right. Calling the question fails. 16-14-2. 6-14-2. Sorry.
When you get on the queue.
When you get on the queue.
Would you like to be added to the queue?
Yeah, do it. Okay. And just a small note. Wow, it was ruled in order because 20 people have spoken already.
Nick. The other Nick. Yes, that Nick. Go without the hat.
Yeah. So we've been talking about possibly amending the motion. No one's actually made a motion to amend it. I would like to suggest that somebody amend the motion to a number less than 3. Maybe possibly 2-8 or something like that.
2-9.
Yeah.
Repeating.
Would you like to yield to anybody?
I would like to yield to the guy in the gray over there that has his hands up.
So I would.
Tell me your name, by the way.
Oh, I'm Austin.
I'm Nick.
So in my personal opinion, 3-0 is a little bit harsh just because a lot of people who want to be on Senate are right below that, and when they are applying for jobs, when employers see you're a little below a 3-0, you need like that push that you did something, because not all of us are 4.0 students, including myself. I would be very much affected by this, but I do understand that you should be held to a standard, so I would like to move to
Amend the motion such that it reads.
2-5.
Where?
Like, do I have to
Everybody listen.
There are 4 numbers.
I'm passing it down.
That's the wrong one.
There's 2.
There's 2 of them?
Yes.
Can you please tell us what you would like to change?
Everyone please sit quietly while he amends the motion.
Okay, it has come to my attention that the 2-5 is what's already there, and so this would just be prolonged.
6-7. God, he has made a motion to amend. Please let him make a decision.
Can I have a point of information what it currently is? Am I allowed to ask that or no?
2-5. There's no such thing as a point
Okay,
of information.
2-5. I will change all of these
3.0s to 2.5.
Everywhere that 3.0 is listed.
Yes.
Can I make a point? Is there a GPA minimum in the bylaws itself?
No, we don't have to codify a ruling, so because the thing that exists only on Kevin Dye's hard drive, because Kevin Dye never put anything on flagship, it's still binding.
So this would add it to the bylaws.
So I see there is 3.0 written in 4 spots. You want to replace that with 2.5?
Yes. No, there's 2 on there.
Only the ones in the result.
Okay, I guess the ones in the result, because some of these are informational. So where it says, whereas half the students in all majors have a GPA all centers accepting, I can't even read, but on that second bullet point where it says 3.0, make that 2.5. And where it says on the second bullet point 3.0, make that 2.5.
You just said the second bullet point twice.
Okay, well,
I know what you meant. I got what you meant.
You really want the second bullet point.
Everybody, please listen. Give me your undivided attention for brief moments so that we can accelerate this procedure. All right, so the end of the motion now reads, resolves that the Rensselaer Union Student Senate adds the following to its bylaws. All senators, excepting those representing the current freshman class, shall be required to maintain at minimum a cumulative GPA of 2.5. Any senator who fails to meet the minimum cumulative GPA of 2.5 at the end of any semester shall immediately be removed from office. We are going to now move into a queue to discuss the amendment. We will discuss whether or not the amendment is something we would like to have in the motion, and then the next vote will be whether or not we...
No one seconded. Second. Never mind.
We'll wait to decide whether or not we agree to the amendment, but will not cast the motion itself. We are going to open a queue, starting with
Michael Hahn. Thank you. Good point.
Is the amendment friendly?
No, doesn't matter. Does anyone object to the amendment?
Yes, I object to the amendment.
Oh, yeah, hold on.
Michael.
Okay.
Wait, so we are on the queue now. You did object?
Yeah, so we have a queue. I think, because if nobody objected, then it would just go in, right?
Correct.
So, at this point, people's minds are already made up. I don't think, besides Steven, who said he changed his mind on this, I don't think anyone else has. I don't think I've changed any of your minds. You have definitely not changed any of my minds. Any of my multiple minds. I think the changing to 2.5 is unnecessary because I don't agree with this motion in general, so I personally will vote no, and I would, after some discussion on this number, I would like to call all of the questions later on. That is all.
Are you asking to get back to the queue then?
Yes.
Okay. Bill.
Okay, so does this have to be just pertaining to this amendment?
The 2 changes, yes.
All right. So, while I do believe that a 3.0 is kind of high, not like completely unattainable. To me, anything between a 2.5 and a 3.0 like looks the same to me. I mean, I don't know. If someone says they have a 2.7, if they change it to a 2.8, I mean, to me it doesn't really seem to change all that much. So to me, I wouldn't see the point of making the amendment if it wasn't at least a 3.0. I mean, I obviously wouldn't say that it should be anything higher, but the 2.5 seems a little bit unnecessary because while I heard it's not in our handbook or not in our bylaws, whatever, no one seems to be not reaching that. The same thing with this 3.0 is that if we have, I don't know how many people aren't making that.
Sorry, keep going.
So I don't know how many people who aren't making that 3.0, but from what I understand, it's at least like 3. So even if we assume it's between 3 and 6 people, that's something like 85% of our group who are attaining that 3.0. And that's much higher than the 66% that you guys said is for the entire campus. So we're already kind of representing, you know, the better side of campus when it comes to GPA anyway. So to me, this all seems very arbitrary and capricious. I don't even know if that fits in. Yeah, so just like Michael Hahn said, no one has really changed any minds here, and to me, to have it be a 3.0 seems a little bit too high, and to have anything between a 2.5 and a 3.0 seems kind of like not necessary at all.
Keegan.
I'd like to make an amendment to this to make it, if passed, to make this effective starting next year or next semester. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go for next year, next calendar year.
This doesn't. You can't go down because
Wait.
you're going back to the main motion. You're not related.
I thought you can go 2 amendments deep though.
You can only amend the amendment. You were changing the motion in a very different way. So you need to wait to go back to the
So I gotta wait till. Okay, that's fine.
Jeremy.
All right. This whole meeting, you've talked about Senate. You've talked about yourselves. For the past hour and a half, you've talked about yourselves, specifically with the GPA minimum. Like, that has some use, but your job is to complete projects for the students. And you just spent an hour and a half of time that could have been spent completing projects for the students, talking about yourselves. So vote and be done with it. As Keegan said, everyone's already said, and you got the minutes to prove that this is getting circular. Everyone said their piece. We've had several people try and call the question, and I think people they just want to keep hearing debate. But everyone said their piece, be done with it. And my second point on this is you're a body of students. Represent them, don't exclude them.
Come on, this is
Mike.
To me?
Yes, you.
Cool. This is just about the 2.5 amendment, but thank you for your words about other things. The 2.5 amendment is fine. I understand the point of it. This puts it in the bylaws where right now it's in like this flowing legislation thing where no one can find it, but it still exists somewhere. So 2.5 is to put it on the rule books, which we're following already, so there's no change there. That being said, 2.67 is a B minus, and so 2.5 is what, like a C plus maybe? And
between C plus and B minus.
that's not a great letter grade. So I mean, I understand there's no difference between 2.5 and 3.0, but like a B minus would be something everyone should strive for. At least, right? You don't want no one to see, right? So really, yes. So I mean, this amendment right here is for 2.5. If you agree with 2.5, then you can vote yes to it. I'm not really sure where you're going with yours actually. I don't know where you fall on that. Okay. But valid argument still. If you're done with the if you want to over 2.5, vote yes. If you don't, vote no, and then it goes back to the main menu. The main menu. The main motion. It is a game to me. Here's the main motion, and there, that's when you want a motion to add for next year or something like that. That can be added as well.
Jessica.
Okay, so 2 quick points. One, to refer to what somebody just said, we have actually talked a lot about our constituents and how this wouldn't just affect us, but could limit other people from running in the future. So we have considered that, and we haven't just been talking about who it would kick off or what. And then second, at least in favor of the 2.5 change, why would we have a 2.5 requirement for running, which is what we currently have, to get on the ballot, and then have a higher GPA that you have to maintain after you're elected?
Paul.
So, like Jeremy said, we've sat here, we've talked about this for a while, and Keegan said nobody's really changed their minds. I think we need to codify our bylaws anyways, which this would help start to do since it's the existing thing. Can we all just move on with our lives and start to get personally into it? Because I'm missing 2 prior commitments because of this. So, nobody's changed their minds. We aren't getting on with it. So, I'd like to call all the questions.
Second.
Just one question.
That's not what I meant by calling the question. He's not asking for your questions.
All those in favor of ending discussion and calling the question specifically on this amendment. No, I'm about to get to it. This amendment. So we vote serially to call.
No, you have to pass.
If he's asking to call all the questions. If we vote yes, we will then, after we vote yes, vote on the amendment, and then we will immediately, without any more discussion, vote on the motion as it reads after we're done with the amendment.
All right,
if this
cool.
fails, we go back into the amendment discussion.
All those in favor of ending all
Is this
discussion.
related to voting?
Yes, I believe you can call previous question, not all the questions.
Previous.
You can call the question.
Previous question, plural. Yep.
That's why I was thinking that it's calling, like, you just call them in order.
Hold on.
You don't vote, you don't discuss.
Once a motion is made and seconded, you can't amend it. It's property of the body. You have to vote on it.
We are not discussing whether or not we can amend it, we are discussing how it would be enacted.
We're discussing whether he just call all questions if we vote on them serially. So it's a call to all questions. You vote, are we just going to go consecutively vote or not? And that's what their question.
Don't compromise your Ben. Don't bend to their.
Everyone, please stop discussion because technically the question has been called, which means we do not discuss until we have had this vote. So if you are discussing anything with your neighbor, you are thereby breaking Robert's Rules of Order. And considering that is what we have all somehow agreed to, follow, we should not just willy-nilly throw it out the window occasionally because people get really tight about that. And let's, I swear I'm not salty.
It can be applied to the immediately pending, debatable, or amendable motion, or to an entire series of pendable or pending and debatable or amendable motions, as long as you begin with the immediately pending question. So you can call as many or as few as you want.
Okay. And they're all voted on at once.
You vote once.
All right. All those in favor of ending all discussion on this motion and moving to a vote, please raise your hands by the time I count to 3.
If you are allowed to vote.
2, 3. All those opposed, please raise your hands high and immediately by the time I get to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I want to make another one.
Calling the question passes 15-6-2. We will now vote. Hold your freaking applause. All right. We are going to now vote on whether or not we approve the amendment to the motion. The amendment changes the GPA rulings that we will be adding to our bylaws to a 2.5. So just in case anybody didn't get that, we're going to read this one more time and then immediately vote without discussion, comments, or side chatting. Resolves that the Rensselaer Union Student Resolves that the Rensselaer Union Student Senate applies the following to its bylaws. All senators, excepting those representing the current freshman class, shall be required to maintain at minimum a cumulative GPA of 2.5. Any senator who fails to meet the minimum cumulative GPA of 2.5 at the end of any semester shall immediately be removed from office. All those in favor of this amendment to the motion, raise your hands now. All those opposed, please raise your hands now. All right, amendment passes 17-3-3. Now, we will, one more time, read through the entire motion as it currently reads. The Rensselaer Union 46 Student Senate, whereas the Rensselaer Union Student Senate is an organization of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, where education should always come first, especially in comparison to any extracurricular activities or organizations, whereas the Rensselaer Union Student Senate requires a minimum of 4 hours a week, not including any extra responsibilities assigned, whereas studying for additional hours taken up by the Rensselaer Union Student Senate could only help to improve the understanding of subject matter, whereas please stop talking, we're not supposed to discuss anything. Whereas members of the Rensselaer Union Student Senate have a responsibility as student leaders to look out for our fellow peers and help them accomplish as much as they possibly can and ultimately become the best versions of themselves. Whereas grade point average, henceforth referred to as GPA, is a measure of success in a student's program at the institution, whereas the administration has already shown that there is a need for student leaders to meet additional requirements by assigning the GM and PU minimum GPA requirements. Whereas the Rules Elections Committee has GPA restrictions that all candidates must satisfy, it does not apply to write-ins or appointments, whereas there is no system currently in the Rensselaer Union Student Senate's bylaws to help its members maintain a good GPA, whereas over half the body at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute has a GPA of 2.5 or higher, whereas over half of all students in all majors have a GPA of 3.0 or higher, resolves that the Rensselaer Union Student Senate adds the following to its bylaws. All senators, excepting those representing the current freshman class shall be required to maintain at minimum a cumulative GPA of 2.5, and any senator who fails to meet the minimum cumulative GPA of 2.5 at the end of any semester shall immediately be removed from office. So moved by the Graduate Council, presented by Mike Kayola. All of those in
Considering that this is a very controversial motion, I think we should.
You just say roll call or not.
You do not need a second.
Roll time.
Keegan, are you ready?
Sorry, Keegan.
Yes, I am ready. Hang on 1 second.
Side discussion is not allowed. We called the question so that we do not discuss, so that people cannot chit chat, so we can move to vote, so we can end it like you guys wanted.
You good?
So stop talking.
Thomas Alapat.
No.
Nancy Bush.
No.
Mike Kayola.
Pass.
Caleb Caraway.
Pass. Keegan
Caraway. Pass. Jen Church.
Pass.
Joshua D'Amato.
No.
Justin Etzine.
No.
Alex Bach, Michael Hahn.
No.
Paul Laurie.
Yes.
Jessica Kajewski.
Pass.
Tim Krentz.
Yep.
Bill Maynor.
Pass.
Austin Miller.
Pass.
Samantha Notley.
No.
Cameron Riley.
Yes.
Spencer Scott.
Yes.
Steven Speranza.
Yes.
William Velarde.
Yes.
Joe Venusto.
No.
Benjamin Walcott.
Yes.
James Whelan.
Pass.
Amanda Humans.
Yes.
Okay, to the top. Mike Kayola.
Yeah, I'm in.
Caleb Caraway.
No.
Keegan Caraway. No. Jen Church.
Yes.
Jessica Kajewski.
Yes.
Bill Maynor.
No.
Austin Miller.
Yes.
Wilbur Velarde.
No.
James Whelan. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 7. What? How much does the state pass?
2/3.
2/3 of present, not present and voting.
Present and voting. Not total membership, present and voting. No one abstained, it doesn't matter.
Just
23. Yeah. Please wait for the results.
Vote count is 10 yes, 12 no.
Keegan, that doesn't add up to 23.
Oh,
I counted
well,
11 yes and 12 no.
maybe I
I
missed
did
one.
as well.
Hang on.
Guys, there should be no conversation right now.
Yeah, 11, sorry. The passes make it hard because I have two different columns. Yes, 11.
The
11
motion
yeses.
fails 11, 12, 0.
So, I thought, did we change it in the Constitution to make it, if it's bylaws, then it has to be 2/3 of present, because we're making a bylaw amendment, so it'd be 2/3 of total voting.
We changed it for constitutional stuff. In any case, regardless of whether it's present in voting or not, there was still more no's than yeses.
But that's
We're
still
gonna move on to the
important.
agenda.
Okay.
All right, so, all those I understand. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting right now, these all things that would be raised in new business not be attended to until next meeting. Please raise your hand right now. All those opposed?
All right, meeting is adjourned by a vote of 18-3-2. Could I have everyone's attention just for a brief moment?
What was the count on that adjournment?
Go.
Thank you.
All right, so we've had some interesting meetings lately, and people have had their frustrations here and there. So I would like to ask you guys, along the lines of people not receiving emails about this, what you'd like to see from me in the future that would help you. What do you think is something that you'd like to see? You don't have to answer this now. You can email me later. We can talk in person. That's fine. But I just want to make sure that you guys know that I do want to hear what you guys think. I would like to thank Nick for early on this semester. He sent comments to me about my meeting style, and I feel like I took them into effect. And I feel that people appreciated when I did that. Someone came and told me that they appreciated that.
Ready
So
in
I'd like
20
to make
minutes.
myself a resource.
Yeah, I gotta process it
continually,
because it is not in
my first time doing
a
this.
format yet. I
Finally
just
get my
literally
shot
write
at
them
it.
down.
I'd like to do the best I can for
I
you
got a
guys.
scholarship due at midnight,
So if you have anything to say,
I
please
can
let me
just
know.
crank it out for you real quick. Let me